A world gone insane. An upside-down civilization that cannot be real. A world of madness and terror.
It's the Dana Gould Hour.
September. It is officially pre-Halloween season, and we have a great pre-Halloween episode. Wayne Kramer, the legendary lead guitarist for the MC5 and Père Ubu, is here. He's written a new book entitled The Hard Stuff, as well as comedian Matt Braunger. He's here to talk about his new podcast, Advice from a Dipshit. Now, there's lots and lots going on. Fans of me can find me all over the goddamn place. On September 30th, I will be performing in Los Angeles at the Clubhouse. The Clubhouse is a fun little venue on Vermont in Los Feliz. Maria Bamford performs there a lot. And on Sunday, September 30th at 8 p.m., I'm going to go there and do about an hour. I will be performing with Valerie Tossi and Candice Martellaro. So come on down. It's on Vermont in Los Feliz. The Clubhouse. On October 4th, I will be in New York City at New York Comic-Con for the Stand Against Evil panel. Season 3 of Stand Against Evil premieres on Halloween night on IFC. Seasons 1 and 2 are available now on Hulu, and they will be rerun on IFC prior to the premiere of the third season. Watch your many social media platforms for specifics. On October 5th, I will be in Massachusetts, performing at the Norwood Theater in Norwood. One night only, tickets available on the Performing Live page of danagould.com. And then, drum roll, October 11th, only in Los Angeles and only at Largo. A live stage reading of Plan 9 from Outer Space. It's now a tradition. With myself, Bobcat Goldthwait, David Keckner, Janet Varney, Lorraine Newman, Kevin McDonald, Matt Braunger, Rob Zabrecki, Ron Lynch, Nate Mooney, Deborah Baker Jr., Ken Daly, G. Charles Wright, the Poubelle Twins, and live music by Eben Schletter. I really hope you can come down and be a part of the show. It's one of my favorite things I do all year. Starting in November, I will be embarking on the Beautiful Showbiz tour. I will be in Atlanta, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, Madison, Wisconsin. I'll be winding up on December 13th and 14th at the Punchline in San Francisco. As always, details and ticket links for these shows can be found on the Performing Live page at danagould.com. There's more to talk about. My book, Planet of the Apes Visionaries, is out. And our little podcast now has a delightful Patreon feature. Why not join? Become an official Dana Gould Hour Sky Cadet. We'll get to all of these details later on in the show, but for now, we're all here. Might as well do a podcast.
Dana Gould Hour. Free and worth it.
Settle back now, content, comfortable, well-fed, and ready for some fine entertainment. Is everybody happy? Then let's go. It's showtime.
It is a beautiful fall day here above the Mulholland View Shelf at Falcon's Lair Recording Studios. And by fall day in Los Angeles, I mean the temperature is kissing the upper 80s. The leaves are bursting into flames and birds are burrowing into the ground to stay alive. I am joined by, occasionally we get somebody of historical import. He is a legendary musician, one of the founding members of the MC5. He also played with Père Ubu and Was Not Was, and a host of other musical entities. He's one of the founding members of Jail Guitar Doors. And we'll talk about that. But he has a new book. You can learn all about him. He has a new book out called The Hard Stuff: Dope, Crime, the MC5, and My Life of Impossibilities. And it really is that. The only thing I would suggest is My Lives, because there are 3 or 4 lives crammed into this book. Please welcome Wayne Kramer.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming by. And
thanks for having me.
You came out of Michigan and Detroit. MC5, for those of you who don't know, stands for the Motor City 5. And it's the home of your sort of political and spiritual blood brother, Ted Nugent. Why don't you go into that a little? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's true.
The Nuge.
Actually, I think Ted was born in Chicago, or maybe he moved to Chicago for a while, but we met as teenagers.
Yeah, you must know him well.
I know him fairly well. I mean, I don't talk to him every other day, but we've known each other for a long time. Yeah. We have some history.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that your relationship with him is like my relationship with my brothers, where it's like, you just, what are you thinking, dude? Do you just not bring it up when you talk to him, or?
We have not, actually had a substantive political conversation yet.
Yeah.
I'm open to it. I'd like to give it a try and just see if he could talk without hyperbole.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand conservatism to some degree and don't really disagree with a lot of fundamental conservative principles,
right?
Political principles. But the antagonism and the acrimony and the polarization,
the cartoon aspect.
Yeah.
I tend to leave
in our national discourse. My hope would be that we could talk, civilly and as old friends and talk about things in a reasonable, measured,
I understand. It's my entire family of origin. I have 4 older brothers and my parents, and they're in Massachusetts where I grew up, and they're in the house all day with Fox News on. And if you're in a house where the people are speaking Spanish over the years, you just start speaking and thinking in Spanish.
Yeah.
And you have this, and it would take me an hour of free talking. Like, don't interrupt. It would take me an hour to convince my mother that Hillary Clinton didn't talk to the devil every day. It's like, it's that. So it's that ingrained. But yeah, in terms of like conservatism,
I think that's all of our families.
Yeah.
And my in-laws are not dissimilar. They're the same thing. Fox runs nonstop. And, in fact, I have brother-in-laws that I haven't spoken to in decades.
Yeah. And the same, the same is true, on the left, but you also have to admit that the left is not as good at it as the people on the right. Where like, whenever your opponents have to be, deprived of their human dignity, I leave the conversation.
Yeah.
And the left does it too. But it's, the minute, any political ideology that deprives people of their human dignity, then I'm out.
Well, first, for those of us on the left, the first step has to be to stop demonizing the right.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are complete, sentient, full human beings and entitled to their ideas about how the world works. And to continue to call them names and disparage them doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help our cause.
No, it doesn't help our cause.
It doesn't help the cause of connection.
Agreed. I think it was Charlie Sykes, who's a right-wing political commentator in Michigan and Wisconsin. But he said, the left called everybody with an R after their name a racist. Mitt Romney was a racist. Jeb Bush was a racist. George W. Bush was a racist. Everybody was a racist. And then when a real racist came along, nobody cared. They didn't have the
wolf.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't have the language to
right.
And so, yeah, hopefully there'll be a big reset, but who knows? But there's a story in your book. We're gonna flash back. It's late 60s, early 70s, and you're going to Boston to play the Boston Tea Party.
Yeah.
Don Law, who I remember hearing his name Don Law presents.
Right.
And you're playing with the Velvet Underground, and it's the Velvet Underground, the MC5, and then you bring along a band called the Motherfuckers.
Well, a band, not in the musical sense.
Right. They were a political...
A group.
A group, yeah. And
a gang.
A gang. and because the MC5 were incredibly they were a music group, but they were also a socio-political entity with an agenda, and you were not just about the music. You were
correct.
Right.
Yeah, no, we took a militantly political stance. We associated with our fellows on the extreme left, and and
we'll get John Sinclair was your manager for a long time.
Yeah. So we had a kind of. We called it the White Panther Party.
Right.
We weren't really like hardcore, Marxists who argued about Marxist theory all night. But, it did give us a way to express our frustration with the slow pace of change and to voice our dissent. Mm-hmm. So we were serious in that respect, and we associated with a lot of people that shared our views, and the Motherfuckers were such a group. They were militant Lower East Side thugs. Mm-hmm. And we brought them up to Boston. And
I'm assuming because when you say we're going to bring along the Motherfuckers, it's implied afterwards. It doesn't even need to be said. I assume things will go smoothly.
Well, who knew? Things can always turn on a dime.
I can imagine somebody in the middle of a riot standing up going, "This is not the motherfucker way."
Yeah. So they asked us for a little time from our set to make an appeal for funds. One of their members had a violent confrontation with some service members, and somebody got stabbed, and their guys got charged. So they wanted to raise some money for bail. Mm-hmm. And this was not out of the ordinary for us. So we said, sure, go on up.
And this is 68,
68 I guess it was. Yeah. 69, maybe, right when the album first came out.
Right. And it's really although it's 69, 68, it's the beginning of what people think of as the 60s in terms of the socio-political tumult. That's really
the rupture.
Yeah, that's 67 to 74.
Yes, the apotheosis.
Yes.
of
the social upheaval.
Kind of intergalactic.
Yeah, just this confluence of
culture and
that's really
youth
it's the late what people think of as the late 60s. It was right into the
if you want
early
to
70s.
Place it in a historical context. Malcolm X had just been assassinated. Martin Luther King had been assassinated. Bobby Kennedy had been assassinated.
Right.
The world was really exploding all around us. The war in Vietnam. We knew 40, 50,000 young Americans had already died, and the administration showed no signs of changing direction on the war. Conscription was mandatory. Young men were required by law to submit to joining the army. So it's a heated world we live in.
Yeah,
and the Motherfuckers made their appeal, and then they kind of rounded off their talk with and let's have violent revolution now, and let's start with burning this fucking club down. Which, was met with varying degrees of enthusiasm from the audience.
God, it's a beautiful day. High atop the Mulholland View Shelf here in sunny Southern California. It's September, which means it's hot as balls, and it's also already Halloween season. Actually, the CVS is now stocked for next Halloween. They're that far ahead. I am joined by one of my favorite podcast guests, one of your favorite guests of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matt Braunger.
This is the sound of my voice.
Now, every time you come on the podcast, I promise myself that I'm not going to cry.
That's a real thing. You move me.
just wailing. Just
It's for some reason that struck me as something like an over-emotional, extremely powerful old Hollywood executive would say. I like him around. He moves me. And everyone's like, that's really weird, but we can't say it's weird. He's too powerful.
It's Daryl Zanuck. If he says he moves him, he moves him.
It's D.W. Griffith. There's nothing we can say.
Remember when you're a kid and you cry so hard, you're like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, in the Kings of Comedy, the movie with Bernie Mac, he had a bit about how his grandmother would just try to say something, and a little kid, like her grandson, or maybe him, would begin talking, and he does this thing where he just hits the mic. He hits the kid in the chest, and it's just boom, and then he's quiet for a second. He goes, ah! Like it knocks the breath out of the kid, and the kid gets a breath, and then he screams, and it's like the funniest thing because it's perfect. It's like if you and I were of that age, where like a parent would just smack you one.
Oh yeah,
and you'd take the smack, and then it's like.
And you can see
that moment of silence, and then it just comes out.
I see that with my girlfriend's children now when they're at the age where they fall down, and then you can see them deciding whether or not to cry. What am I going to do on this one? Where am I going to go with this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would I gain by screaming? Should I keep this internalize this? Or, should I share this feeling?
Tim Long, the Simpsons writer, told me a really funny story. I think he was in Paris, and he was staying with his family, and the father had a job, like he every day he drove a truck back and forth to Berlin or something.
Oh my God.
It was like, he woke up, he drove 3 hours, put a lamp on it, and then drove back to it. It was just like, he was just living exhaustion.
Oh God.
And he said, and he's sitting down and he's in the chair and he's got like a glass of wine or something. It's a horrible story. And his daughter comes up and she's saying in French, I'm doing a little dance, papa. Like, je suis sur ton chanson, papa. Je suis sur ton chanson, papa. And the father so dead, he just looked at her and threw the wine on her.
Oh my God. That's so fucked up. You took this moment from me. You enjoy the wine. All I had was this moment.
You took this moment. Now that's a great question. Do you have, and we should say this. I was looking at the New York Times last Sunday, and I was in the new podcast announcements section.
You were? Your podcast was?
It's always weddings. Podcasts.
I didn't know that was even a thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
And you, Matt, have a new podcast.
I do. Yeah.
Entitled
Advice from a Dipshit.
Advice
with Matt
from a
Braunger.
Dipshit.
Yes.
And it's just started.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The first episode is up with Kyle Kinane.
That's maybe the 4th or 5th.
That's what I said.
Well, yeah. But we've only done maybe 10 episodes, something like that. So it's not.
So a full year.
No. I mean, it's really new. It's really new.
This is how podcasts are done.
Sure.
You do one a month.
Oh, right.
It's 12 hours long.
Well, yours is this carefully choreographed ballet of the macabre and the insane and the hilarious.
Eventually, I'll just get to the point where I do the middle piece because people will be sick of coming to my house. But I do want to get into. I have a question for you, but first let's talk. What is advice from a dipshit?
Basically, people call into a number 323-768-0228 and leave a message. And my podcast producer, Amanda, like it's ours. It's 50-50. It's our baby. It's not on a network. And she picks the best ones. And like when you come on, she'll have curated ones that'll be good for you.
Interesting.
People don't even know you're coming on the show. So you and I will listen to them in real time. I don't hear them before. Neither does my guest. And then we answer in the moment and go, okay, well, I think. And sometimes they're very serious.
Wow.
Very sincere a lot of times, but a lot of times they're just ridiculous, something insane, and it's fun. She'll never take someone who's like, oh, they're doing a funny voice. They're doing a character.
Right.
She generally weeds out the how do you make it in the biz ones because it's the same answer. Sure. You just do it till you drop. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But it's very fun and it's a half an hour. So we're just like 3 or 4 calls and we're done.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
It's so fun. And we did it live when we first got the idea on my old podcast in Denver in a this giant bookstore room. It was just full. And so people heard, we're going to start going on the road doing live ones because people hearing the calls for the first time with me is such a bonding experience where
that's true.
Someone asked me about like, did I have any, creep history that I'm ashamed of. And so I got into that, like how it was when I was younger and stuff. You just out yourself. You just Me Too yourself. Oh yeah. Basically.
They're all dead.
I feel it's nothing like that. The bothering women, the typical
Can't be
stuff
accused by
younger.
a corpse.
Right. Corpse no talks. But
yeah, sure.
Yeah. And but then next one would be like, yeah, I got a weird dick. And we're like, okay, so here we go. It's just very fun.
Yeah.
It's very fun. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I didn't know this. Guys always say, women are always going to the bathroom together. Why is that? And so they don't get harassed by dudes.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it took me a long time to realize that. And the thing is, the big thing.
Going to poop? What's it? They're going to poop? What are you doing, pooping?
Yeah. You guys all holding hands? There's a potty train?
What is your opening line to a woman on her way to the toilet? Let her go to the fucking toilet.
Let her go, please. So much of the typical dude stand-up comedy shit is like, why aren't they like me? That's really what it comes down to. It's like, I do this way and it works for me. Why don't you do that?
Yeah.
Like you might as well be like, why don't women pee standing up? Why not? Give it a shot. Works for me.
We have this thing of if there was just a person in the audience that instantly debunked all those things, and there were two specific ones, and this goes back to when I was living in San Francisco. One was every time there's a plane crash, they say we get the black box.
Right?
Why don't they just make the plane out of the black box?
Yeah.
And it's because the plane would be too heavy to fly.
Shut up. Yeah. That's the comeback. Yeah. No,
Reagan had cancer in his ass. George Bush had cancer on his finger. What's that about? Nothing. Cancer is not transmitted like that.
I think I might have mentioned this, but like my favorite comedy lesson was in Chicago, back of the room, there's this guy on stage and he was this guy who just one of those guys who was all motivation, but just about as funny as a broken ankle, like not funny at all. And like he was like, Gatorade has a flavor. It's fierce lime. What's so fierce about a lime? And this comic next to me, I forget who it was, one of the gang, Kyle or somebody was like, yeah, that makes you furious. That fuels you the rage. That's believable emotion. It's like, yeah, you don't give a shit about Gatorade flavors.
I used to say that about Lewis Black. It's like, really, Starbucks? You're in a froth over a coffee shop? Really? Just don't go.
Don't go.
There was I remember there was a comic was on stage, way back in Boston. And it was like, what if Reagan worked the drive-thru at McDonald's? Like some weird, terrible. And then Paula Poundstone went on and went, I think you worry too much. I don't think that's going to happen.
He's a millionaire.
Yeah, he's not going to work.
No, he's fine.
No worries about that. No worries.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's just you take anyone's comedy from back then and actualize it, it's gone. It's just gone.
It does. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's they talk about like.
Isn't that what that's all about? Just like
complete actualization.
Ronald Reagan will never work at McDonald's.
That's all she does. That's all she does. Just weird, hyper, weird, non-true.
Yeah,
things.
that was always the other the terrible thing that comedians would do is like, you ever put a lizard in a hat and take him to a restaurant? No.
Nope.
No.
Well, I used to say the way to tell when a comedian's lying is when they go, when that happens, do what I do. You've never done that. The thing you're about to introduce, you've never done that. Go to a strip club in pajama bottoms. That's what I do.
Yeah. Or describing a practical joke to play does not qualify as material.
Right. Yes. Nope.
Yeah. I like to put a snake in somebody's mailbox, and then when they go to get the mail, they get bit.
And they die.
Yeah. The audience is just like, what's happening?
Why would you do that? Jesus Christ. You find out this guy is just literally a sociopath. He's touring. He didn't even think you're supposed to tell jokes.
That would fit.
He just tells terrible
By the way,
things he's done.
I'm sure that guy's out there.
Oh, yeah.
Let's have violent revolution now, and let's start with burning this fucking club down. the other band,
the headliners.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they were the headliners.
The other band was the not gritty Velvet Underground.
As I remember, they were some kind of an art performance band.
Yeah,
from
they
New
were.
York.
They were. At that point, they were Andy Warhol's experiment, and they would play at art openings and things.
I mean, as I remembered them from that period, my thoughts were like, well, they can't really play. So they're kind of doing a performance of sorts. It sounds like poetry with some kind of lame drumming behind it. And I think a couple of them had guitars. And the guy that was the nominal leader of the band, got up on stage and told the audience, that, they were not going to perform if any MC5 fans stayed in this venue. So if you came to see the MC5, they would not play until you left. That's how much they reviled
didn't appreciate
us.
it. But it's so funny.
The disdain they had for it, which I certainly do not blame them for.
Of course. No, when you get older, with the gift of hindsight.
Yeah. I mean, we were thuggish, and there was a lot of us, and we're big corn-fed boys from Detroit, and we're coming on very strong. And
they came out of the factory. And you came out of factories.
Yeah.
You'd actually been in a real factory.
Right.
It is interesting to me that you're both, you're both bands, you're both playing in the same venue, yet you're just universes apart.
Yeah.
And did you and Lou Reed cross paths later in life?
Never.
Never
happened.
Never had a good chortle.
Nope, never.
Yeah, well, his journey is interesting because he did decide to become a musician.
He did, and
it was after that period,
and made a contribution to the culture, and had a great many followers and people that really held him in great esteem.
Yeah.
and ended up marrying Laurie Anderson.
Yeah,
he was a wonderful artist, and then he died.
Yeah, no, there is that.
Like we're all going to die.
Yeah, we're all going to die. You see those, one of the strangest friendships that you see, although we did come out of art school, but I didn't realize that Townsend and Bowie were close friends.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah. But although people would lump Pete Townsend into the MC5 gritty. It's the Who, it's Broken Glass. It's but actually came out of art school. And viewed the Who as a weird art, like this macho testosterone soaked thing. This is the sort of art piece that I'm doing.
Yeah. The difference is Pete and his band could really play.
Yeah.
And they could really sing, and they could really write songs.
Yeah.
As opposed to the Velvet Underground, who could barely play.
Yeah. If you listen to that first album, it's like, okay. What inspired primitivism? No. No.
The Who were, that was a great band. Still is a great band.
Yeah.
Sure.
So let's backtrack a little bit. You come out of, you're born in Michigan.
Detroit. Yep.
In Detroit, Michigan. And one of my favorites, you almost burned down your neighborhood one day.
Yeah, I gave it a good try.
And you were 10? No, you were younger.
I was about 8, I think, 7 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kids playing with matches. I wasn't really a pyromaniac.
Yeah. But when people say, if you play with matches, you're going to burn the house down. You did.
Yeah, I burned down 7 houses, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to watch kids and matches. It's tricky stuff.
And do you feel now that you're a father now, and Francis is your first child?
Yes. And my only.
And do you worry?
One and done.
One and done. Do you worry that karma is gonna just you? Because there are photos of you as a child in the book.
Yeah.
And you go, he's trouble. You can see it in your eyes, like this.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm here to tell you.
That's very prescient of you.
Yeah. This kid, you can just. You were not Beaver. You were not Wally. You were Eddie.
I guess, yeah.
You were Eddie Haskell, and you.
I don't know if karma exactly works that way.
Yeah, I know.
I think karma is like if you do a bad thing, then you just did a terrible thing. That the karma is actually instant.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't think you know. I mean, certainly if you do people wrong, sooner or later some blowback is going to get on you. You're gonna pay for it,
right?
In an unknown but directly related way.
Yeah,
but that's kind of different, I think.
Yeah,
that's kind of a loose interpretation of the term karma, I think.
Yeah, well, people, and it's one of the things that I struggle with now is because you don't want to think that people get away with shit. And, people get away with shit all the time.
Boy, we're getting a load of it lately.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
this wretched grifter that we have running the store, he's made a life's work of it. And then all the rest of his contemporaries up there on the Hill, it's unbelievable. I mean, the corruption, it's so pervasive from the highest offices of power to the dog catcher.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Well, and it goes to an interesting sort of a meta theory that now your politics, and certainly the politics of you're talking about the MC5 and the whole movement that you came out of in Detroit, in the late the citizens of Detroit burned Detroit down in the summer of 1968.
They did, yes. 67.
67.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sentence in the book, the summer of love did not, was it land in
didn't make a stop in Detroit.
Yeah, it did not make a stop. The summer of love did not make a stop in Detroit. And Detroit is a fascinating microcosm of America.
Yeah.
And capitalism.
Yeah. It's especially capitalism. It's the perfect illustration of capitalism gone completely wrong.
Yeah. So let's unpack that. Let's unpack that before we move forward, because I think it's important. Detroit was the American car industry.
Yeah, it was.
The governor in the late 60s was George Romney, the former head of American Motors. Yeah, father of Mitt Romney.
It was the manufacturing center of the world.
Of the world.
If you wanted it built, we could build it in Detroit. We had easy access to raw materials. The iron ore it was mined in the Upper Peninsula. Gigantic lake cargo boats brought the ore all the way down to the Detroit River, where they could offload it directly into the steel mills at Zug Island.
Right.
And the steel mills produced the steel that went across town to create the automobiles and 10,000 other products. So it was a perfect capitalist industrial era setup.
Right. And this is post World War, prior to World War II, because they built
starting in the 20s with Henry Ford and his this idea of the assembly line and build a car that the workers could afford. Mm-hmm. It's a well thought out idea.
It's brilliant. Yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And
this is the thing about
that last part is the part that has been forgotten. And all of these things, like globalization happens and the digital revolution, and if you go into a modern day automotive factory, the jobs aren't being done by Mexicans.
No,
they're being done by machines. Yeah, that's who's coming over the border.
And this is the one lost aspect of the robber barons is they all created something. Certainly they created great wealth, but they created the railroad industry, the steel industry, the telephone industry, the automobile. They created things
that
move civilization forward.
And that included,
they added to the world.
Yes, and that included the make a car the workers can afford. That there was a respect for people that didn't have as much money as you.
Which is of course the core fault with capitalism is it puts profit ahead of people. What Henry Ford did in that stroke of genius was consider people in the profit, just in the scheme of where's my profit?
Yeah, just consider. And,
Right.
And when you talk about, and like, was there ever a time in your life when you were a Marxist?
Oh yeah, sure. Kind of a junior Marxist,
Sure.
kind of an amateur Marxist.
Well, my view of Marxism,
Marx was right about most things.
Marx was right about many things.
Yeah.
I don't think that, the Marx's model works if you're a collection of 10 farms.
Yeah.
It doesn't, the thing that capitalism doesn't factor in and that communism doesn't factor in, I'm speaking in gross generalities, obviously. Human nature.
Right.
That people will lie, cheat, steal, rape, and kill to get what they want. And if no one's looking, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with communism. And, it's like you're going to take an extra ear of corn and a potato out of the bucket if no one's looking.
Or the revolution comes and the first thing the revolutionaries do is kill all their enemies.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right.
The circular firing squad.
Yeah. What you see now is the view of America only as an economy, and that not as a government, a collection of values. Everything is boiled down to the profit motive. Like, well, we will make more money this way. Well, where's the profit in that? Where's the, there's no, it's the old George Carlin line. Why aren't we dealing with the homeless problem? Because there's no money in fixing the homeless problem. Well, maybe you do it anyway. But that's, you really do, if you watch like Fox Business and on all of these people, it's like, there's more to what this country is about than making money. And if you say that, like, oh, you don't want to make money? No, I do want to make money. I like making money. I like being a capitalist. Yeah. I'm my own little mom and pop shop. But I don't do it at the, at the expense of other people. It's not just
this is where everything broke down in Detroit because
I don't think I have to stick a knife in your eye to get what's in your pockets.
No, the auto industry was a big hit and they sold more cars every hand over fist. They're selling cars and trucks to the whole world.
Yeah, the whole world.
And there, there's a thing that happens where capitalists become imperious and impervious to the world around them. They control everything, and there's a great parallel in the record business in this. But in the auto industry, they continued to build these cars that were, they get 12 miles to the gallon, 7 miles to the muscle cars like I drive.
Yeah.
What do you drive? They get 50 yards to the gallon.
Yeah, I know. What are you driving now?
A Charger.
There you go.
And I'm going to get a new one next year. I think I'm going to get the Wildcat. If you're going to pollute the air, this baby is how you do it.
If you were here a year ago, I had an AMC Rambler station wagon, 65 AMC station wagon, in the garage.
With a supercharged engine?
Yeah, that George Romney built. George Romney built.
So here we are, and one day OPEC decides, they come to the realization, why are we charging them $20 for a barrel of oil when we could charge them $60? They got to buy it.
Yeah.
They had, and Detroit got stuck with these gas guzzlers. Right. Koreans, the Japanese, the Germans all had better ideas about cars. They had moved forward. Technology had moved them forward. Their own expensive oil costs forced them to engineer cars that got way, way better gas mileage.
Right.
And Detroit got stuck with these cars, and the business collapsed. They blew it. They lost the whole store.
Yeah.
Everything.
And part of it was the car as a symbol of American dominance, and it's very male. It's like your car is called a Charger because it couldn't be called a boner, right? But it's really that. Right. It's like the new AMC cock. Yeah, that's basically what you're.
Yeah, I want one of those supercharged hard-ons.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and I'm all for it.
Hey, look, if Priuses drove like a Charger, I'd buy a Prius.
Yeah.
If they look like a Charger, I'd buy a Prius.
Yeah, I totally get it. And
we're certainly sending a message with our car.
Exactly. And, but that became, that view of identity became, like everything else, a marketing device.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see,
like everything else,
you see bumper stickers out in the Hatland. Thanks for your Prius, more gas for me.
Right.
I was like, well, it's your money, dude. You know, and, you know, at the height of that, you know, when we really realized when alternative engines, the hybrid engines started to first appear, electric cars and Priuses. One of the ideas of the American, and this is right after 9/11, when there was this brief, instantaneous thought of like, maybe we should look at our reliance on foreign oil, et cetera, et cetera. And now it's affected a lot. And then there was this, no, I have a better idea. We'll sell Humvees commercially. We'll instead, what if instead of being fuel efficient, everybody drove their own bus? Mm-hmm. And it was just a symbol of, it was an extension. It was a middle finger. It was like, no, I want to feel powerful. I want to feel strong. This is what the troops are in. Mm-hmm. It had nothing to do with what the troops are in. It was an old truck chassis and they put a different thing on top of it. But it was also, you're selling, you go from selling a means of transportation to
an identity.
Yeah.
And, a statement.
And there's a lot of that, there's masculinity and then there's toxic, unhelpful masculinity.
Well, yeah. I mean, it becomes aberrated.
Yeah. And
so,
we may be the global capital.
And to wrap that whole Detroit kind of capitalism at its worst, that in the end, the big three took their money and went home. What remained of the American auto industry was relocated to areas of the world where there were no unions, because unionism really found its footing in Detroit in the United Auto Workers.
Right.
And they did a great thing because, you know, one of the downsides of capitalism is the speed of the line.
Right.
You know, they're going to speed that. If you're selling cars, speed the line up. And the line is inherently dangerous. You've got cars
flying
blasting
down
past you. You got to stick your hands and your arms in there and fasten parts on it and get ready for the next one in mind-numbing days and years of doing this kind of work. And so all this goes away. The unions go away. The factories go away. And Detroit is left, like all of the industrial Midwest, as an empty city full of workers with no jobs. Mm-hmm. And when when cities don't have jobs for workers, this opens the door for despair and narcotics and you know, just the worst that humans can come up with. Mm-hmm. And in Detroit,
well, this is an interesting point. You know, talk about like, you know, we bash the right. I bash the right. Here's something I heard from someone on the left that made me want to punch out my own windshield. I'm in the car. This is 2 weeks ago, and they're interviewing somebody who's talking about, there's this theory about a fixed income, a universal fixed income. Mm-hmm. And this person who clearly had never been outside of a university in their life, saying like, and I love the idea of people being freed to create art and plan communities. And like, have you ever been to a neighborhood where no one's working?
Right.
No one's creating art and planning communities.
Right.
They're eating Cheetos and watching Jerry Springer.
Yep. And figuring out who to rob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just that, you know, you really need to get off campus.
Yeah. And today, you know, now Detroit is, you know, when I grew up there was almost 2 million people in the city of Detroit, 4 million in the metropolitan area. Today there's less than 700,000 in the city of Detroit. You know, there's 20% unemployment for young black men. the city's bankrupt. It's one of the highest crime
no drinking
rates
water and no drinking water and
violence. The downtown looks good. The artists are moving in. And,
that's
they're
what
trying.
That's what I wanted to ask. How is there's two things that work. One, the lesson of Detroit is, and it was, I wish people could learn this lesson. We should put it on the flag, take out "Don't Tread on Me." And, evolution does not favor the strong. It favors that which is most adaptable to change. The dinosaurs were a lot stronger than the cockroaches. The dinosaurs died and the cockroaches lived.
The cockroaches are doing well.
Yeah.
It's so funny. There was a guy that Kyle and I knew that every time we'd see him, he'd have like pictures of like some girl he hooked up with, like her flashing her crotch or something through a skirt, and like all that's like, oh, there's another one. Look at that. Like, great. And and Kyle's like, yeah, man, I had to tell that guy. We were just like, we just let the friendship go. We were never like, you're out of the gang or whatever. But it's just like, not that he was ever in, but Kyle was just like, I just don't want to hear about the string of rapes going along in his tour. And I was just like, yeah, no, fuck that.
I worked with Kyle about a month ago, and he mentioned G.G. Allen, and somebody clapped, and he went, yeah, you clapped because you never went to one of his shows and got hepatitis.
Oh, that's a perfect answer. So true.
Yeah,
back when
he's a
crazy
terrible person. There's nothing good about him.
Yeah. God. Yeah. That's what, if I go to a concert and it's full of energy.
Not everything is cool.
No.
Not everything. In fact.
And I don't need my front men to take a dump on the stage, quite frankly. That's never what's missing from an amazing song.
By the way, it's like, it was edgy when Count Basie did it. Squack. Transylvania 65000.
I like the culmination of Minnie the Moocher when he just jizz all over. Poor man, poor man. Yes.
It would be when you shit or vomit that you have to make
or jizz. Don't forget, this is the jazz age. Evolved from the jizz age.
But you have to make the noise that they would put in the dialogue balloon of the comic strip version of you doing it. Horg. HOOOOARG. Squack.
Well, all of these releases inside sound like the horn with the cover, the wah, wah, wah. Yeah, that's how it feels in your
saxophone
in your heart and
bell.
Soul. What is it, like a toilet plunger? I don't know what at the end of the. What's at the end of the trombone on that?
Yeah, that was basically a toilet plunger.
Yeah.
That was always the especially in like Peter Bagg comics, like in Hate. When anybody would ever throw up, that was always the word they would use. It was always horg.
Horg.
Brap.
Yeah. Well, or like Tales from the Crypts, those comics and stuff. It'd be like you'd see like the zombie coming out of the grave and he'd be like, choke. Like always choke with lines around it. Like the like I don't know what that noise was.
Patton Oswalt once was describing, I think he was describing how Reagan was old and infirm, and he was like, he had horrible dysentery, and he was like, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Soup.
Who knew?
Using the word soup.
I remember as kids, because everyone was doing the Reagan, the wheel,
Yeah, wheel.
And
hello, mommy.
Yeah, I was like in grade school, and Money for Nothing by Dire Straits.
Sure, yeah.
And there's that part where he goes, look at that mama coming, sticking the camera, and he goes, man, wish I could have some, like in a song. Yeah. And I remember I was at summer camp with this kid, and he was like, look at that mama sticking the camera, and wish I could have some. Ooh, Nancy, I'm sorry. And I remember laughing so hard that Reagan just matter-of-factly being like, wish I could have some. And then Nancy suddenly being in the doorway.
Oh, Nancy.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I just had to share that memory.
And again, a song you could not have that song today.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you could.
That little faggot with the earring and the makeup.
Right. I forgot about Little Faggot.
But that was a line in the song 1985, Dire Straits, a great band.
And he's talking about someone talking about him, you know?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it just goes to show you that things change.
But I would argue that done the right way, like, you know, if let's just, you know, spitball it. That comes out because the big thing about that song was it was a massive video too. And so you could have, you know, just some actor in a chair mouthing along the words, that little pointing, call him a faggot, you know, and that thing, it still would be just like, hey, that word, you know?
Yeah. But back then it was like, that's how guys talk.
You know, it's one of those things that it didn't even dawn on me. And I'm someone who, as a kid, when, Van Halen, I feel like David Lee Roth just fucks anything. He's just anything sexual, you know? You know, it's one of those things.
He does prance.
He does prance.
He prances.
Well, it's one of those things that just I've
never seen Bruce Springsteen
never even
prance.
looked at him as a. This sounds weird, but like a human being.
No, I know.
He was like a satyr, you know, like
He's
coming
like
out of the
Bowie.
woods doing jump kicks and
he's
shit.
He's like Bowie in the era of classic rock in the late 70s, you know, whatever, like early 70s to mid 80s. Mm-hmm. It was so macho,
right?
It was so testosterone,
of course,
soaked. Yet Bowie, who was flamboyant and clearly bisexual,
right?
But he got a pass. That's Bowie.
Well, and rock and rollers got a pass.
Yeah,
like if you look at
I did not
John
realize
Cougar
that
Mellencamp, his first band, he had like lipstick on.
Oh, I didn't know
just
that.
like that's no one would know that. I mean, I saw the behind the music, but I was just like, oh, you just did. You know, everyone said like the New York Dolls and stuff, and it was just like you're supposed to be androgynous, and you could see those guys like hitting the bar later and being like, "Well, you gotta dress like a faggot to make it." What are you gonna? You know, like they would probably talk like that. It's crazy. Yeah.
And it is weird how we've seen that. You know, it changes so rapidly, and now you go, "Oh yeah, that is bad." I mean, there's stuff I did on my special in 2015.
Yep.
No way I would do it now.
Of course not.
And that was only 3 years ago.
Totally. And there's an article about that I read. It was on like Vulture that a bunch of comics, men and women, go, oh, these are the jokes I can't imagine doing that joke now. And like, I got called out. One of my bits about the Chicago cold, about how like, you know, my nipples have razored holes in my shirt. Now I'm a fat tranny. And I said that on my, on this thing. And it was just a toss off. It was never anything I wrote down. Like, make sure you say, I just threw it out. And I remember, this is 2011, didn't even think about it. And I got called out by a wonderful trans lady who I'm now like, in basically like online friends with. And she's called into my show, and she's a fucking stitch, and she you know, she fronts a punk band, and she basically wrote me online and said that really hurt, and I was like, what? And I'm like, what? When did I ever? And I had to dig, and I was like, oh my God, you're right, and I apologized, and we started a dialogue. So
same thing happened to me.
And it's one of those things where I think,
and you only have to talk to them for 30 seconds when you realize, oh, I'm an asshole. It's like, you know what? You're right.
Yes.
I'm wrong.
Well, and it's sorry. It's ignorance. It's not willful ignorance.
No, it's literal ignorance.
We're learning. We're learning. You know, it's
like Dire Straits. It's like, no, this was, you know, and again, you talk about how things are. Three's Company.
Yes.
Was an entire television series.
Right.
Based on the premise that one guy thought another guy was gay.
Right. Yeah.
That was the whole show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nowadays, that wouldn't fly.
No way.
You can't make the Tinkerbell gesture.
Nope.
You know, but that was in our lifetime. That was in the mid 70s. That was like, hey, it's funny. He's gay.
Of course. I mean, it's we all have to evolve. The thing that makes me bristle much more than hearing someone, you know, accidentally toss off a thing like that and then catch themselves or whatever, is the person that's just like, and it's always a white dude. It's like, people are so sensitive. It's like, oh my God. You are now. You are, you know.
Speaking of sensitive.
Come on.
Well,
and then the nature of systems, systems start, bloom, rot, decay, and then a new system arises. Do you see, as a son of Detroit, do you see the new, because I know there's a lot of, art and stuff going in.
Maybe
something
Detroit
happening?
could be Portland someday.
Uh-huh.
The trouble is it's manufacturing center history. If there was a light industry that could find a home in Detroit, that would make a big difference. You got a lot of people out of work.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that kind of industry even exists anymore.
Yeah. What is
automation? Does all those kinds of jobs. So we're in a service economy. We're in an IT economy, and I don't know. They're trying in Detroit. They're working hard on it. They've done. People with money are putting their money where their mouth is. Mm-hmm. They've revitalized downtown. Downtown looks great, and people are moving down there. But you go out 3 miles outside of downtown, and it's rough. I mean, this is Katrina level destruction.
Right.
Detroit has been flattened.
Yeah. And the one thing that Trump did do, which was brilliant, was he said to those people, "I see you." He did see them, and unfortunately, he told them he said the most cynical thing, which is, "I'm going to bring 1951 back." Yeah. And you can't bring that 19. Yeah. I'm going to bring
he
back.
He tapped into the same anger that Bernie Sanders did.
Yes. Yeah.
Bernie was brilliant in understanding the anger boiling on just barely under the surface. And actually, Trump didn't do that. I think Steve Bannon did that. Steve Bannon's actually a brilliant guy.
Yes.
I mean, he has an analysis, and he's committed to it, and he thinks everything through. Trump is incapable of this level of thought.
Yeah. Yeah,
he's not a chess player. He's stuck with he's in the lizard brain.
Yeah, he's not a chess player.
He's not a checkers player.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's absolutely not. I agree. It is fascinating, but it's important to that to know like where you come from as a musician, as an artist, and in being in Detroit in the ferment of the late '60s. You're in a. I want to talk about how you came to be managed by John Sinclair. Like, talk a little bit about John Sinclair and how it was that you came to be.
Well, all bands start out the same. We all start off trying to learn how to play, and you meet some kids in the neighborhood who have an instrument, and you start a band. And
there's a great line in your book where you talk about you're very young, you're in early teens, and you need to be in a band. Yeah, it's not I want to be in a band. No, I need to be in a band.
It's not like I'd like to be in a band. Oh, that sounds like fun. Yeah. No, this was like breathing air.
Yeah.
I couldn't not do this.
Right.
And so at a certain point, you can play songs. Maybe you start to write some songs. You start to get real jobs where the people pay you. And, and I was, ambitious is probably an understatement.
Yeah.
and I knew at a certain point, bands have managers. They have people that represent them in the business world as an interlocutor between the artists and the companies.
Yeah.
And we had tried to deal with managers, and almost universally hated them.
Yeah.
They were just foul people.
They at first blush, when you're 14 or 16, the whole it's like, I'm doing this because I don't want to be a businessman.
Yeah.
And here you are.
And these guys were, just shallow, foul individuals. And we were sarcastic enough to not buy any of it from any of them. John Sinclair, on the other hand, was, a consummate hipster.
Yeah.
John knew more than everybody that we knew. He was a little older, a little better educated, was a brilliant poet, was a leader, charismatic.
He's not really a manager.
He's not a manager. And in fact, he was more a member of the band than he was a manager.
Right.
I mean, he was like in the gang.
Yeah, well, he was a political activist.
In the inner circle with us.
Yeah.
It's not unusual. I mean, I just watched a Clash documentary, and they had a guy.
Cosmo Vinyl?
No, not Cosmo. Bernie Rhodes, Dusty Rhodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who was kind of like their own John Sinclair. And there's Kit Lambert, and then with the Who, and Andrew Loog Oldham with the Rolling Stones,
and Brian Epstein.
Yeah. And they were all on the inside and helped the band refine their relationship with the outside world.
And to be smart enough to know that you are a product and that we need to package you and sell you. And then you get in the door and you can spread your message.
You can start to make things happen. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before then we need matching outfits.
He was a lot of things that I understood only on a gut level, John was able to articulate in a granular way.
Mm-hmm.
That made a great deal of sense to me. Why things were as messed up as they were. Why life was unfair.
You're right.
Why, all these great black musicians weren't hugely successful, and Bobby Vinton was.
Right. Yeah.
Crimes against humanity. That kind of thing.
The Polish Elvis.
Did you hear that slur your dog called me in dog language?
It's always from the people that are the real victims.
Right.
Anglo-Saxon, heterosexual, white men.
Well,
the people who have it the hardest in our culture.
There's that need to try to push back. Yeah, like neither one of you sitting here is going like, yeah, so I got to assert myself. It's the only way to make it in this biz.
There was a great quote, and I wish I knew who said it, but it sums up all of that stuff. And we don't need to name names because we know what we're talking about. That whole culture, that aggrieved white male culture.
Sure. Yeah.
When you are used to privilege, equality feels like oppression.
Yeah, that's it. That's really it.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I also love giving someone their equal rights doesn't take away from yours. It's not pie.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not a slice of pie. You get less pie.
That's exactly right.
I really get so just like, I just kind of turn off when like a white male comic gets on stage and goes, straight white male, sorry. And a lot of them do it.
Really?
Yes.
I gotta go out
because they have this perceived thing. No one gives a shit.
Yeah.
Everyone just cares if you're funny or not. The end.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit. Don't set yourself up assuming, it's a lot like, I remember, I was thinking about this the other day. There was an exec that was at Comedy Central. He's no longer there, and he was a nice guy and a fine guy, but he would say, to kind of break the ice, I'm Jewish, sorry. As if I'm like walking in there like, long as there's no Jews in this. Hey, it just put me on like, what a weird thing to say, like, and he meant no harm. He's trying to relax you, but it's doing the exact opposite.
It's so weird because to be what? A Jewish TV exec?
Come on.
What?
Yeah. So strange. Yeah, just like,
it's like a rapper.
Yeah.
I'm black. Sorry.
Well, I like, I love when, people like lashed out at like Jon Stewart, and they're just like, "Oh, you're so oppressed, a Jewish guy in show business," and it's like, "Oh, you just shut up, man,
stop.
Just shut up." It's like,
stop.
It was. It's one of those things where it's like, is it run by the Jews? No. Are there a lot of Jews in the business? Sure.
Yeah.
Because it was the only place they could make money in America.
It's also,
and it was a business everyone thought of as shit back then.
A business they invented.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Holy shit. Invented the business.
The CinemaScope, movie theaters in general.
Every major movie studio
founded by Jewish people.
Yes,
yeah, for sure.
Except Disney.
Right.
Which is why he had to go to Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
But this was the question that I wanted to ask. There's nothing to do with that.
Okay.
When you're giving out advice, is there? Oh well, let me ask you this first. Then.
Okay.
Did you see Nanette? Is that what it's called?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sure. It's great. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It gets very emotionally dark in parts. It's very honest. Hannah Gadsby is a very funny person.
Yeah.
So she's definitely got the bona fides.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where I've seen so many comedy specials that cut to a sketch or something weird happens in the audience and the person goes out there and talks to the person in the audience or whatever. So it's like the whole argument of like, but is it comedy? Like, sure it is. Yeah, it is a low art. And I'm proud of that in its sense. So, you know, that I think the bristling comes from comedians that are like, why are you trying to make our thing into, you know, so I'm just like, how does that affect any of us?
And it's also, it's like music. It's like you can be a banjo player and you can be in Striper. I mean, you could do both. It doesn't, you know, I've never seen anything more creative than Richard Pryor live in concert when he's talking about having a heart attack.
Yes.
Like it's like you can do that and you can be Buddy Hackett and they're both funny.
Yeah.
They're both
it's like,
funny.
why do you think Richard Pryor was such an amazing actor? Is because he inhabited his act outs to the point where you're like watching a scene. Yeah.
In Richard Pryor live in concert, he plays a very convincing deer drinking water.
Yep.
You know, it's like,
or a talking dog.
Yeah. He's just that good.
Yeah,
he's just that good. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Comedy can be it. And, but what the problem comes from, because journalists need an angle. And this is a great thing is not enough of an angle. This is what comedy is now. All comedy is now invalid because this. This is a cycle. This happens.
And comedy's big business.
Yeah,
so they're struggling to write about it, but you'll never be able to write about it like you'll be able to write about how there's a million superhero movies now, or you know, whatever. Because it's just cut and dried. You know exactly what it is. With comedy. Comedy has been a thing that everyone's always been an expert about. Everyone, everyone knows what's funny. Everyone knows how it should be. Everyone knows they haven't seen a comedy special or a comedy act in 15 years. And they watched 5 minutes of special like, that sucks. You know what's great? Yeah. This thing that I saw in college, well, you know, and that's the most obvious example, but like, you know, it's to microcosm that. So many writers just kind of go, we all know this about comedy. And they'll set something up and you're like, no, do we? That's you.
Yeah, that's you. Yeah. Well, that's always, that's the great, like, well, obviously we all agree that.
Right. Yes.
Shemp was the only stooge.
I mean, I'm not only not a practicing Catholic because of going to church on Sunday, you know, and I always said to myself, it's because I can believe in God. I can't believe in congregation. You know, we're in a group of people. We believe this, right? We all believe this.
Yeah.
We believe this. It's really hard for me to believe you can choose what you believe deep down, much as you'd like to. So last time I went to church was with, outside of, I'll go to the church I grew up in sometimes, but like when my parents were in town, they wanted to go to this place in my neighborhood and we went, and the priest's, liturgy was entirely about what they're not. There's Buddhism. We don't believe in that, do we? No, we don't. It's like, wow. Fuck you. I define myself by what I love, not by what I hate.
I mean, that was recent.
Yeah, this was like a year ago, 2 years ago.
I remember being in church in the 70s and having the priest go.
Wild scene, right? The Quaaludes.
We pray.
The disco.
Well, it was a hot tub church. Drive-in hot tub church. Everybody's on poppers.
Yeah. Bennies.
We pray for our Jewish brethren so that they may discover Jesus and enter the kingdom of Christ.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not big on gated communities.
Fuck that. It doesn't make any sense.
That was somebody's. I wish I knew who wrote this story.
That's a great joke.
Heaven, there's a gates at heaven. What kind of neighborhood is heaven in?
Oh, that's so genius. That's great. That's so great. And like Moshe Kasher's thing about you go up and all your relatives are there. What kind of heaven is eternity with your family? Like, oh my God, that's so good.
That's like that great Carlin bit about like, yeah, my dad really helped me get through that test. Is that what the afterlife is? Watching your kids and helping them, keeping spelling test on Tuesday. Yeah.
It never ends. You never rest.
And then a great line that only Carlin could write is like this, you know, they could be in hell. Your parents could be in hell. Your grandma could be in hell. Grandma's in hell. Baking pies without an oven.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like
He's
class
just
clown was like my religion. When I was a little kid. I listened to it incessantly, and especially because growing up Catholic, though much more progressive Catholic than when you. And there's a line that always sticks out is like when
Father Rivera?
No, there's a million, but lately, with the one I've been thinking about is a purgatory. You know, it's like hell, but there's a release date. You know, it's like what if there's short timers hanging out? A millennium, I can do a millennium standing on my head, man. The guys that can stack time in purgatory real well.
I'm short, man. 2 eons.
Just like, I can do millennium standing on my head, man. I just loved it. The 70s guy bragging. I just, I could see him just bell bottoms. Big hanging mustache.
Yeah, and a tank top.
Tank top. Yeah. Some weird tattoo on his arm of a buxom mermaid or some shit. Standing on my head.
I saw Kelly Carlin showed me. It was at a display at the Grammy Museum or something, but it's literally the shirt and the jeans that he wore on the cover of FM and AM.
Oh, wow.
I've held them in my hands.
Holy shit.
But I don't know why it looks like children's clothes. He was so tiny.
So small.
He was so tiny. It's like
well, I just feel like, I don't know, maybe because I'm a fucking monster, but everyone's so tiny. Every time I find out someone's famous, I'm just like, I could put you in my pocket. Look how small you are, you know?
We're happy to have you with us this evening and want you to enjoy every minute of your stay here. And while you relax and stretch, visit our concession where you'll find something to please you. There are ice-cold drinks, delicious sandwiches, ice cream, coffee and snacks, and many other pleasing treats. Our foods are fresh and tasty, our drinks satisfying and refreshing. They're so good.
Welcome to Political Talk with two guys from Boston, a working man's look at the socio-political issues of our day. And now, Political Talk with two guys from Boston.
This is Political Talk with two guys from Boston. I'm Johnny Condon.
Robbie Sullivan here.
Brought to you by Bevel Aqua Heating and Air Conditioning.
We're cool if you're cool.
We're doing a show, and then we got to get out on the 128. We got to fix a heater. It's getting crisp.
Yeah, it is.
The summer is over.
It is.
Summer of 2018
it's gone.
Has been put to bed. And all the hits of summer will give way to the new fall, hits of fall.
Yeah.
I don't know one of them.
I got away without ever putting on a bathing suit in the last 3 months.
Good for you.
I brought it several times to events. Never reached for it.
I'm at the age now where my shorts have to touch my knees.
I like that.
You get to
That's
a place.
Nice plan.
Otherwise, you look like the tennis pro that Columbo is trying to talk to.
Yeah, grown men in shots.
Short ball hugger shorts.
Yeah, that time may have passed.
Detective Columbo, I'd love to continue talking to you, but I really have to go to see Miss Andrews. Yeah, Miss Andrews is dead. What? Sometimes you catch a reflection in your car window when you're bringing out your groceries, and you think, why is my dad bringing out my groceries? And then one day you just got to sit. You have to have a long moment with yourself, Robbie. You got to sit down.
Yeah.
In a comfortable chair.
Yep.
The lights can be on or off, but it's got to be quiet. No music on. And you just have to say to yourself, Johnny, you look like this now.
And when you do see them socks, you go to, oh, yeah, that guy must be single. And someone goes, no, they're married. Oh, she doesn't care anymore.
It doesn't care.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. You're just the blur that walks the dog.
Yeah.
That's what women think of you now. But I am so glad.
It's their 1.5 hour apiece.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Would you walk the dog? Why?
Sure, I'd love to.
I'd love to breathe.
Yeah, just to get out of the house.
I would
just to
love it.
roam the neighborhood.
If you don't mind, I'd love it if you weren't here.
If you didn't have a dog, you'd just be that weird guy that walks around.
And then sometimes they go and get 3 dogs to make sure there's someone to walk about every hour.
Yeah, or you go to the dog park and you leave with a big bag of dog shit, but no dog.
Have you done that?
Oh, so many times.
Oh, Johnny, that's impressive. That's like someone who's helping.
I'm just here to help.
Yeah, you're
chatting up a gal. Well, I really should go.
You're removing things that bother other people. And again, this is why I leave parties early.
Yeah.
I don't believe that I'm helping.
The dog park is a beautiful analogy for regular life. It's a big, beautiful place that's supposed to be great, but it's actually full of shit.
Yeah.
When your dog watches you pick up its shit.
Yeah.
And because you're the one in charge.
Yeah. Define hubris.
Yeah. I'm the superior one in this relationship, but let me grab your shit. Let me put this in a bag. Let me deal with this.
You feel evened up?
Yeah, let me get this.
It's like you're having a conversation with someone. If they're looking you right in the eye, great. But as soon as they sort of raise above you to tell you how brilliant they are over you, I'm out.
There's 3 levels. There's the people that don't have any pets, or any kids.
Yes.
And after a certain point, you're a weirdo.
Yeah, you are.
Unless you're in jail, which is understandable.
Yeah,
even then,
that's not your fault.
Yeah,
well, maybe it is.
Yeah, or you have a guy that you've made your cat.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens. That would be like if I was in jail. You're going to be my wife. No, I will be your beagle.
Oh,
I'll be your dog.
You know what? I'll take it.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
It's better than the loneliness.
But yeah, you get the people, or the people that have pets but no kids.
Yeah.
And they get into that with, oh my God, my cat is just like a kid.
My fur babies.
Yeah, not really.
I hear that a lot lately.
Yeah.
My fur babies.
Is your kid going to private school? When was the last time you kicked yourself because you said something that might make your cat grow up to be a stripper?
Or the people that have like a camera on their dog at the place that watches their dogs and they look at it during the day. Mm-hmm. That to me is weird.
This is what checking on your dog. Here's the other thing. The difference between people who have kids and the people who don't have kids.
Yeah.
When a news story comes on about somebody who killed their kids, the people without kids are horrified, and the people who have kids are like, yeah, I get it.
I understand how that could happen.
Yeah, I can see how that would easily happen.
Yeah.
Sure, you're drowning.
I would never.
Yeah.
But I can understand that moment.
Sometimes push comes to shove and you're going to drown somebody in a toilet. It happens. How else are they going to learn?
Yeah. And in that moment of whatever happened, you go, they probably should have taken a drink.
Yeah, just drink.
When do you ever tell someone to drink to get away with it?
Yeah.
Well, if they're going to kill a kid or a puppy.
Yeah, drink.
Yeah, you should have one.
Have a drink.
It's better. In fact, you might be better that way because then we don't got to listen to this version.
If the doctor said to my father, don't stop because he's 80, late 80s. At this point, if you go into shock.
Right. Don't do this to yourself. It's going to be too hard to get through.
Yeah. But for my dad to become sober at this point in his life would be like a guy in a wheelchair going, you know what? Mountain climbing. That's where I'm headed.
So it's drink to the finish line.
Yeah. You're running out the clock. Well, the problem with fall in New England, as everybody knows, the highways are filled with assholes going to look at the foliage.
Oh, they got to see it.
Oh, they got to drive up to look at the foliage.
There's people coming from other places to muss up the traffic.
Yeah, and just
weird.
But it's 2 things. There's people heading west to look at the foliage.
Yeah.
And then the people on the Cape who are like, thank Christ.
Well,
people on the Cape can drive to the mall.
Hold on, let me see how long the GPS says I'm going to get there. I'm like, we've been there 1,000 times.
Oh God, my parents used to live on the Cape, and Labor Day would go.
Yeah.
And it was like the Omega Man. It was just the streets are empty. And
there was no GPS then, though.
No GPS.
So you just said it's going to take us at least 3.5, 4 hours.
But you would think, you would look out at these people and you would think a pandemic would not be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Skimming about 40% off the top. 60% off the top.
The parking lot to cream and cone starts right at our house.
After the summer is over, you get the lifers come back.
Yes.
These snotty nosed kids.
Yeah.
They're back at UMass.
Yep.
Passed out with a beer bong nozzle. Beer bong nozzle wedged in their esophagus. I had to buy a clip. I had to buy a plug. I still have an iPod.
Do you really?
I still have my iPod.
That's nice.
Because I have a lot of weird shit. I've got the Who live in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, you can't throw
1974. It's a cassette that I had put into a CD that I put onto my computer, that I put onto but you can't do that with an iPhone.
That's right.
If you
So
don't
now
buy
what are you
it,
gonna do?
Yeah, and so I still
buy it again.
I still have an
can't even find
iPod.
it.
Yeah, but the problem is like this was supposed to be a futuristic device.
I know.
And now it's antiquated.
Yeah,
it's like my Discman.
Yeah.
I remember sitting on an Eastern Airlines flight to New York with a Sony Discman, and I thought I was Flash Gordon.
I've been trying to figure out.
Now, I was Fred Flintstone. Here's a question. You ever go to see remember Seals and Crofts?
Sure.
See the curtain hanging in the window in the evening on a Friday night.
Did those guys
Did
ever
they have a flautist? No, that was a different.
That
band.
was Tull.
Yeah, that
but
was Tull.
Seals and Crofts for people that couldn't stand the hot edge rock of Crosby, Stills and Nash. If Crosby, Stills and Nash was like death metal, you kick it off to Seals and Crofts. Did Seals and Crofts ever finish a concert like Summer Breeze? Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah!
All the light is going up in the air.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seals and Crofts.
Smashing a mandolin.
I would mix them up with the guys who did Lidsville.
Sid and Marty Croft.
Yeah,
Seals and Marty Croft.
Exactly. They should have combined after years, and they could have all the characters come out and sing the song you just
Lidsville,
did.
not in any way a drug reference.
No.
HR Puffin stuff.
No,
Lidsville.
nothing to do with it.
Not a drug reference in any way.
Neither.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the show about? Charles Nelson Riley is an evil magician who flies around in a top hat, torturing old Eddie Munster. All right.
Good pitch. Let's make it.
Yeah, you're not on anything.
Kids will love it.
Jesus Christ. All right, it's fall. Let's go get a cider.
Political Talk with two guys from Boston.
Wouldn't this pizza taste delicious right now? Or how about some piping hot spaghetti or lasagna? Try Giovanni's Pizza for all three. They'll taste even better than they look. Bring the family to dinner at Giovanni's Pizza, 2nd and Mulberry Streets.
Robbie, you know what really chaps my ass?
I don't know. Wet swimsuit?
I hate it when Cumbies runs out of Frosties.
Oh, yeah. All my mother's cigarettes.
They never got Chunkies. I don't like when the Sox ends early and they show Hazel instead of the Stooges.
Oh, yeah. It's the worst. You know what I freaking really don't care for?
What's that?
Relatives.
Ugh. And another thing, I hate it when you got to use the toilet at Brigham's and you got to wait an hour because some homeless guy's taking a bath.
Oh, man. I hate that. You know what else I hate?
What?
The rain.
Yeah, so don't I. Hey, Robbie, you know what bothers me?
What's that?
I'm going to tell you. You ready?
Yeah.
Have a seat.
All right.
Man buns on hipsters with Civil War beardos.
Prog rock and jam bands and mandolin weirdos.
Tattoos and body hair. Little nose rings.
This is a list of my least favorite things.
Here comes another one. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Headbands, patchouli, and hemp-scented candles.
Skinny leg dudes wearing white socks with sandals.
Ugh, every time Kanye gets on stage and sings,
it's on the list of my least favorite things. When the sun shines, when a breeze blows, when I'm feeling blessed. I look at the list of my least favorite things, and instantly I'm depressed. You know what I can't stand?
Now what?
Nipple clamps.
Tramp stamps.
And facelifted faces. Clueless car parkers.
Who take up 2 spaces.
Oh, yeah. Auto-tuned hip-hop.
A bass with 5 strings.
All make the list of my least favorite things.
Oh, I got one.
What's that?
Ugh. But yet, whatever, no worries. And he's like,
awesome, no problem to die for. And she's like,
elected officials who act just like kings.
These top the list of my least favorite things. Dream your best dream. Cling to something that might help you cope. But learn from the list of my least favorite things that really there is no hope.
Oh, you're thinking of something. What is it?
T-shirts with messages, texting, and Twitter.
Facebook and Snapchat and slobs who leave litter.
A lumpy old mattress with big rusty springs.
The gist of the list of my least favorite things.
Every nation come together, dreamers everywhere. Consider the list of my least favorite things. The world hasn't got a prayer. Do you pray?
No.
What's your mother gonna think?
Oh, don't tell my mother.
I'm not gonna tell her, but she'll hear it. All this makes me uncomfortable.
You and me both, buddy. Ugh, feelings.
We are about to witness the takeoff of the first manned rocket to outer space. We pick up the count. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
More to come from the Dana Gould Hour.
It was 1974, and in the economic and cultural centers of the West, the operative word was malaise. A general feeling of discomfort, illness, or unease, whose exact cause is difficult to identify. The post-war economic boom had wound down, and in big cities like New York and London, young people were looking for jobs that weren't there, hope that had faded, and a sense of optimism for the future that was nowhere to be found. If the 60s had spun out of control and spilled over into the early 70s, by 1974, the hangover was in full swing. Rock music, which gave voice to the cultural and political upheaval of the 60s, had grown, calcified, and fossilized. Rock music at that time was dominated by supergroups like the Rolling Stones, The Who, Queen, Led Zeppelin, The Eagles, Jethro Tull, ELO, Yes, Bowie. These bands, whether you like them a lot, and I love some of them, certainly The Who, they were playing stadiums, traveling in chartered jets and limousines. They lived like kings. They were, in fact, literally called rock royalty. What they weren't anymore was connected to what was going on in the streets. And in the streets, especially in England, well, the streets were full of unemployed, frustrated teenagers. And when there's anger in the streets, the last people anyone wants to hear from is the royalty. Enter a guy named Malcolm McLaren. Malcolm McLaren was a British clothing designer and boutique owner. Now, in college, McLaren was a devotee of what was called the Situationist movement. Situationists believed, correctly, in a growing and dangerous trend towards what they called second-hand alienation, where individuals express their feelings by proxy through the purchase of objects and commodities. Now, if you think about it, this is what the show Mad Men is all about. You don't have to be really happy. Just buy all the stuff that the happy people on TV and in magazines have. This is also called advanced capitalism. Your life becomes less about the pursuit of happiness and more about the pursuit of objects that you have been told signify happiness. Situationists, therefore, embraced the concept of spectacle. Specific moments in life specifically designed to shock people out of their complacency, forcing you to experience your life firsthand instead of by proxy through the consumption of objects. Now, late in 1971, Malcolm McLaren and his girlfriend, at the time Vivienne Westwood, converted the back part of a store in London into Let It Rock, which sold records and rock and roll attire. But at the time, rock and roll attire was bell-bottoms, beads, paisley shirts, flowing caftans. But Let It Rock sold teddy boy gear. 50s leather gear was not in step with the fads of the time. It was a big middle finger to the British pop cultural establishment of the time. 2 years later, McLaren and Westwood went to New York City, where they were enthralled by the new music scene coming out of Max's Kansas City up on Park Avenue South and CBGB's down in the Bowery. These new bands were working off the brash, raw sound of 60s garage rock bands like MC5, The Stooges, and The Seeds, but this new group, people like Patti Smith, The Ramones, The New York Dolls, were aggressively and intentionally tearing away at the pomposity of the rock establishment of the era. McLaren caught on to it instantly. He and Westwood became fans with the New York Dolls, a band that was formed in 1971 that combined glam metal and garage rock. The Dolls were way ahead of their time. and appeal to McLaren's situationist, spectacle-loving leanings. He and Westwood began to manage the band, and thanks to them, the New York Dolls, David Johansen, Johnny Thunders, Sylvain, Jerry Noland, and Arthur Kane, soon began wearing red patent leather outfits and performing in front of a giant Soviet hammer and sickle. The New York Dolls eventually broke up, and McLaren and Westwood returned to London, where they opened a new store called Sex, which took the Let It Rock mentality and threw in some S&M sex gear. This was an amazing case of being in the right place at the right time. By the mid-70s, London was full of angry, unemployed youth. Their economic prospects looked dim to hopeless, and stores like Sex provided the wardrobe, if not the soundtrack, for the understandable sense of nihilism that was taking over British youth. There were two regular customers at Sex that caught McLaren's eye: Paul Cook and Steve Jones. They were aspiring musicians, and so McLaren introduced them to one of his employees, a guy named Glenn Matlock. The three paired up, and along with a frontman named Wayne Nightingale, started to rehearse. McLaren was nothing if not image conscious, and he did not like Nightingale, so he advised Cook and Jones to fire him. Now the band needed a frontman. McLaren asked Sylvain of the New York Dolls if he'd like to come to London. He passed, as did Richard Hell. Eventually, Nightingale was replaced by another customer of the store Sex, spotted by McLaren's business associate, a guy named Bernie Rhodes. John Lydon cut a striking figure. He was tall, imperious. His hair was dyed bright green. He changed his name to Johnny Rotten and joined the group, which, thanks to McLaren, was now named the Sex Pistols. Eventually, Glenn Matlock was also fired, the story being he was kicked out of the group for liking the Beatles too much. He was replaced by a charismatic, if Norman Batesy fellow named Sid Vicious. Sid looked great, played lousy bass, and enjoyed heroin a great deal. The band released their one and only legitimate album, Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols, in 1977. Their single was called God Save the Queen, a scathing indictment of the British monarchy. 1977, ironically, was also the year of Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee, a giant celebration of the British monarchy. So McLaren rented a boat and blasted the song into the House of Parliament as they sailed by. Hey, what do you know? The police raided the boat, everybody got arrested, and the band was big news. And the source of a good old-fashioned, hand-wringing moral panic. This is exactly what a spectacle-loving situationist would do. London was now the center of the punk rock explosion. Other bands like the Buzzcocks, the Damned, Sushi and the Banshees began to spring up. Then there was another group of musicians, people like The Jam and Elvis Costello and the Attractions. They took the energy of the punk movement, but worked it into their more sophisticated lyrical and songwriting penchant. One of the bands brewing around London at the time that had a great deal of promise was called the London SS, but it fell apart before ever taking off. Its manager, Bernie Rhodes, the same Bernie Rhodes that spotted Johnny Lydon strolling around the racks at Sex, had a great eye for talent and took the London SS's guitarist, Mick Jones, and kept him as a client. Jones brought in his friend, Paul Simonon, who looked great but didn't know how to play an instrument. Jones and Simonon found a drummer named Terry Chimes and started rehearsing. But they needed a frontman. Again, enter Bernie Rhodes. Around the same time, there was a pub rock band in London called the 101ers, named after Room 101, the torture room from 1984. The 101ers were good, but not great. But their frontman was great. This guy named John Graham Mellor. Mellor often joked about his primitive ability as a guitarist, and so, somewhat ironically, he changed his name to Joe Strummer. It was Simonon who came up with the name The Clash. Their first gig was opening for the Sex Pistols in July of 1976. The Sex Pistols then at their peak. The Clash released their first album in April of 1977. Although it was still April, in Britain, the summer of punk was well underway. The Clash's first single was the furious White Riot, a broadside against bourgeois complacency. Unlike other punk bands, The Clash readily accepted other musical styles on its first album, which included a riveting cover of Junior Murvin's reggae hit Police and Thieves. But they were very, very, very committed to punk's ethos and famously slagged off the Rolling Stones in an early interview.
What about people like the Rolling Stones and other bands like that? How do you think they failed?
You kidding? They're singing about, well, I went on to see my baby, but she weren't there. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I kissed a girl on her lips. Ooh,
The Clash sang about bourgeois complacency, unemployment, discontent, petty criminals on the street, and rich criminals in office. As the saying went, the Sex Pistols would make you want to put your head through the wall, but The Clash would give you the reason why. Despite The Clash's record hitting the low 30s on the UK charts, and critics announcing that the band was the only punk outfit that scared the punk shitless, CBS Records didn't even release their first album in the United States, considering it sound too raw for sophisticated American ears. Now you have to remember, the number one song in America the week The Clash's first album was released in Britain was Glenn Campbell's Southern Nights. The Pistols fell apart in January of 1978 after a concert in San Francisco at the Winterland Ballroom. The evening ended with Johnny Rotten asking the audience if they'd ever felt like they'd been cheated and walking off stage. Johnny Rotten would go on to form Public Image Limited, and Sid Vicious would go on to stab his girlfriend Nancy Spungen to death and die soon after of a heroin overdose. The Clash, however, were just getting going. 1978 saw their second album, Give 'Em Enough Rope, which was finally released in the United States. Topper Headon replaced Terry Chimes behind the drum kit, upping everyone's musical game. The band released their third album, recorded largely in New York in 1979. London Calling was a mix of punk, reggae, ska, and rockabilly. It contained the band's first genuine U.S. hit, Mick Jones' Train in Vain, and was declared the best album of the 1980s by Rolling Stone. The fact that the best album of the 1980s was recorded in 1979 is as good an indictment of 80s music as any. By this time, The Clash were regularly being billed as the only band that mattered. The double album London Calling was followed by the triple album Sandinista, which gets to be quite an undertaking about halfway through side 5, but only The Clash could have pulled it off. Always true to their mission statement, The Clash fought with their record company to not inflate the prices of the double and triple album sets. The same was true of their concert prices, which The Clash fought to keep low and affordable. The band were committed leftists who believed what they sang, and they sang what they believed. The Clash peaked and ended, more or less, with 1982's Combat Rock, which had two smash hits, Should I Stay or Should I Go, and Rock the Casbah. Tensions after their 82-83 tour, the only time I saw them, began to build between Strummer and Jones, and the band parted ways. Strummer would reform the group with a new lineup for 1985's Cut the Crap, which had one good song, This Is England, but by that time punk was over, and the 80s, as we know them now, were in high gallop. The Duran Duran theme to Roger Moore's James Bond's A View to a Kill was the hit song at the time Cut the Crap was released. The album came and went without a ripple. Mick Jones would go on to great success in the later 80s with Big Audio Dynamite. Joe Strummer would tour and record with his band The Mescaleros. Strummer sadly passed away in 2002 at the very young age of 50 due to a congenital heart defect. One last note about one of their biggest hits. Rock the Casbah, whose music was written largely by their drummer, Topper Headon, and the lyrics were written by Joe Strummer, is a protest against the banning of Western music by the Iranian mullahs following the Iranian Revolution of 1979. The song tells the tale of a fictional Arab king who tells his jet pilots to bomb anyone listening to Western music. Instead, his pilots disobey him and blast the music from their planes, literally rocking the Casbah. Years later, Strummer was told that American bomber pilots in the first Gulf War used the phrase to describe their bombing sorties, blasting the song before they took off. When he heard that, Strummer wept. Great story if it ends there. Well, sadly it does for Joe Strummer, but it doesn't have to for you. Get your butt to danagould.com, click on our Amazon banner, and load yourself up on some goddamn Clash. If you don't own London Calling, you need it. Period. No music collection is complete without it. Or Don Lett's documentary on the band, West Way to the World. After the band broke up, it was Don Letts who formed Big Audio Dynamite with Mick Jones. So you might want to grab their debut album, This Is Big Audio Dynamite. Or its follow-up, Number 10 Upping Street, which marks something of a Clash reunion as it was largely co-written and co-produced by Joe Strummer. You also need to pick up a copy of Wayne Kramer's The Hard Stuff and check out MC5's 1969 Kick Out the Jams. Hey, speaking of books, my graphic novel Planet of the Apes Visionaries is out. Artist Chad Lewis and I, thanks to Boom Comics, adapted Rod Serling's 1965 first draft screenplay of Planet of the Apes as a graphic novel, similar to the movie, yet drastically different. For example, the apes live in the equivalent of Ape New York in the mid-60s. It's basically Ape Mad Men. Dare I say it, Mad Ape. It's a great little read for you Apes fans, or Rod Serling fans, or fans of mine, or better yet, fans of all three. And how could you only be a fan of one? Anyway, go to danagould.com, click on the link, and get yourself a copy. Signed copies also available. Lastly, this month we are introducing our Patreon feature, or Patreon feature. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Look, this show is unique, and so too is our Patreon feature. We do one episode a month. It comes out in the last week of the month, and it's usually close to 3 goddamn hours long, which I would hope would tide you through to the next month. We are big and brash and not too fancy. And so is our Patreon feature. We don't have 17 different levels of input and participation. Who has the time? $5 a month earns you the title Dana Gould Hour Sky Cadet. And for this, you get access every month to extra video and audio content. Behind-the-scenes videos of the recording of the podcast, little videos of me fucking around, and videos of me recording the show. We just want to make it worth your while, but not make it too burdensome. So we tried to make it easy. $5 a month, become a Dana Gould Hour Sky Cadet. Go to danagould.com, click on our Patreon link, and the rest is easy. Now, next month is our Halloween episode, and it's going to be a goodie, as it always is. And it will come out a little bit earlier, hopefully around the 3rd week of October, so as to give you some time to enjoy Halloween times. Hey, are you tired of listening to all this bullshit? I certainly fucking am.
And now, on with the show.
Whenever I hear talk about white superiority, I just want to play the Pat Boone version of Tutti Frutti and then the Little Richard version of Tutti Frutti. Yeah. And then you talk to me all you want about white supremacy. Right. And then, so he becomes your manager, and you end up, I did not know this, you played in Chicago at the 1968 convention
riots. Yes.
We, people don't, a lot of people, this is in 1968 after everybody was assassinated. It was the Democratic Party. And I think what happened to the Democratic Party in 1968 is what is about to happen to the Republican Party. Yeah. It's going to eat itself.
Yeah, it is. They fumbled the ball so badly.
Yeah.
That
they threw the ball into the furnace and then went in after it.
Yeah, exactly. And same as the Republicans are doing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's stunning. There are, parallels between then and now. It's different on fundamental levels and fundamental ways. It's different, but the parallels are striking. We have a war going on the other side of the world for 17 years now, which is exactly what Dwight Eisenhower warned the American people against.
It makes no news. You don't hear about it.
Don't hear a thing about it. Nobody has to pay for it. Americans have no skin in the game.
Right.
Most of the families are military families whose fathers were soldiers and grandfathers were soldiers, or they're people who think this is what they should do. But there's also a bigger reason that young men go to war, and has nothing to do with Trump or terrorism, or it's because it's ancient.
Yeah.
Young men want to stand in the fire and see if they can do this. Can they walk through the fire and come out the other side? And undoing that is a way bigger challenge.
You need an army of Freuds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, there's that reason why people go and fight in the war.
Stanley Kubrick called humanity's propensity for violence an evolutionary hangover.
Yeah. That's not inaccurate. Yeah. I would go with that. We have a profoundly corrupt individual who has utter contempt for the rule of law in the presidency.
Yeah. But I think that's
political corruption is rampant. So there are some parallels.
Yeah. And you have, there's his disdain for the rule of law is no different, I think than Nixon's, in the sense that, or Johnson's, or who is it comes from, it's a symptom. It's not the disease. He's a malignant narcissist. Textbook. Malignant narcissist.
No doubt.
Not the first one to occupy the presidency.
No. The job attracts those kinds of people.
You have to be a narcissist to want that job.
Yeah. I had always figured that there were wise, learned scholars in the world who, would never go into politics because it's such a foul business.
Mario Cuomo said anybody smart enough to do that job is smart enough to know they don't want it.
And then Barack Obama, a constitutional scholar, stepped up and said he wanted to be of service. And I was so proud of him and so relieved that finally, someone that understood how the world worked and international diplomacy, and had lived around the world and understood other cultures and other peoples. But then this idea of American politics swings 5 degrees, the pendulum swings 5, and it swung over to the left 5 degrees, and Barack Obama was elected, and then it fell off the wall and was smashed on the floor. The coming of Donald Trump.
Yes, that's true. And I think it took the economic collapse of 2008 to elect Barack Obama. The sun, it was a confluence of things. The sun had to fall out of the sky and crash into the ocean. The economy.
But he might have won. He might have won if the economic collapse hadn't happened. I think the momentum was going.
I think the momentum was there after the war and
he was fresh. He was fresh, and he inspired young people.
But he also what he was not prepared for was he got rolled.
Oh, he was not prepared for a great deal. They beat him up.
He got the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah, he got
and
he got a lot of lumps.
I mean, you have to be like that's when you go like Johnson would cut your eye out.
Yeah,
and that's how that works.
Yeah. It's a blood sport.
It's a blood sport. And you need to know how, it's like, do you abdicate your morality, or do you understand that I'm using these tools for a greater goal? That's what, the mythical, they do all of these shows about what if the Nazis won World War II? I would want to see what if RFK won the presidency? What would have happened? Cause, it would have been the late 60s, early 70s would have been very different, but not necessarily smooth and easy.
A butterfly flapped its wings.
It's exactly. I don't want to let this conversation, I want to bring it up to date. Your book covers so much ground. you are you run a charitable organization. I guess that's what you would call it, or
you could, yes. That would
social awareness organization
would not be inaccurate.
Yeah, called Jail Guitar Doors.
Right,
inspired by your time as they say, a guest of the state.
Yes, my sabbatical. At the federal government's request in one of their less than luxury facilities.
Yes, fans of the Clash will know the lyrics. Let me tell you about Wayne and his deals of cocaine a little more every day. Yeah. That's you.
That's me.
Yeah.
Dude,
you're in a Clash song.
I am. I am. That's
makes
true.
It all seem worth it.
Almost. Yeah, I didn't know them. I didn't actually, when I went to prison, punk rock had not emerged yet.
Right.
And this whole movement kind of happened while I was locked up.
When did you go? I
went down in 75.
75, and you were supplementing your band income with independent pharmaceutical sales.
Illegitimate capitalism.
Yes.
I like to think of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nonviolent.
Yes.
And
just an extension of your hobby.
Yeah, in some ways. And they wrote this song about
adrenaline augmentation.
Yeah, right. Extra energy. You drink coffee.
It's like selling Cheerios when you think about it.
Yeah.
Just super Cheerios.
Right. They're great. It makes you talk forever and lose all your money. Makes your erection go away forever. It makes you really annoy everybody around you, and it makes you broke. Perfect capitalist product.
When I first started playing clubs, I opened for Alonzo Bowden, who's like a little taller than me and just huge, like this big muscular guy. And he was on Last Comic Standing, and my dad was like, God, what's going to happen when you get on TV? Like, that guy looks like a monster, because he's on stage compared to all the other comedians.
Right.
He looks like gargantuan or something.
Well, I'm 5'8", and sometimes, because when people see you on TV, they assume you're bigger.
Yes, that's true.
I will go to a club for the first time, and they'll meet me and they'll go, oh.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Kevin Hart is 2 feet 3 inches tall.
Yeah, no, he's a but he gets around in a solid gold robot body. Yeah. He's inside the head. So if you're at a club and you see
the movie Pluto Nash is about Kevin Hart.
You see a giant Voltron looking thing coming down the street that's gleaming.
Now, are there things? This has nothing to do with anything.
Great.
Are there? Well, because it ties into your podcast.
Okay.
Are there things that affect you as an adult, that you can specifically trace back to your childhood? Like, oh, this has to be because of that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think kind of the same thing that everyone goes through, where you're ostracized or you're bullied, or or you bully someone.
Or do you have a phobia?
A phobia. A weird one I've always had, I think just from being in church, is if you're inside a giant, like if I'm inside a building and the ceiling's insanely high, it sometimes affects me. It doesn't freak me out, but like when I was a kid, that always, like I remember being when I was backpacking through Europe when I was like 24 with a bunch of friends, and being in like the Uffizi and in Florence, in the dome, inside that giant dome. And the ring of that up there, because I always think about like, what if you were up there and you fell?
Right.
Even though I'm not up there. It's the weirdest thing. But it's almost like an affront to God that a ceiling is that high, and it's just stone. But like that's kind of, it's supposed to be a front. It's supposed to be, this is God. You should be scared.
Yeah. That is the perfect.
That's what churches are.
Yeah.
But like around the ring are paintings of naked people getting like poked and set on fire. And if you go, you can go up to you can climb, go up these stairs, and then you come out this like opening, and then you're in it and you look down. Yeah. And I remember that being like, oh my God, this is terrifying, especially because you're in front of these frescoes. There's literally a fresco of a naked guy bent over and being held by demons, and they're about to shove a flaming poker in his asshole.
Yeah.
The size of just that part of the fresco is probably 30, 40 feet high or something insane. Just that guy's butt.
And how do
that's about to be violated.
And how do they paint like that? That's like, I get way up like that, and I immediately go,
God.
I'm going to jump off.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
That's
one that I haven't thought about
I remember
a lot,
being in 30 Rock, like being way up high.
Yeah.
And it was you could open the windows.
Right.
And he's just like, yeah, I could jump right out.
Yeah. New York is crazy like that. I'll be, you'd be way up on like the 60th floor and you're like, this is crazy how high everyone is in the sky. And
you should not be able to open that window.
Yeah. And you can see across to the other building and you're very close, but you're very far and you're both kind of where you shouldn't be. It's interesting.
And how do people build this?
Right. And I think growing up in New York or living in New York, working in New York, maybe you come to love it kind of thing. I love visiting New York, but I don't think I could ever live there.
No, I'm the same way. I think it's also, I have a chaotic brain. I need this. I need trees and sky, and
Same.
I need land. I need to see, and which goes to a weird phobia that I have. I am not good with elevators.
Oh,
and there are some elevators I will not go in.
Okay,
I just won't go in them.
Yeah.
And I've always had it. It's kind of getting worse.
Okay.
And my mother said years ago, and I didn't know this, my grandfather, when I was took me shopping with him when I was 2.
Yeah.
And left me in the car.
Okay.
And when I came back, she goes, you screamed for a solid hour.
Oh my God.
Just because he just left me in the game. It was, it was just to him, it was nothing.
Oh, wow.
Because he was a fucking idiot.
Well.
And of course I don't remember that, but
right.
that went on my hard drive of no, I don't like being abandoned.
And it was bad enough that your brain wiped it out of shock, probably.
Yeah.
It was so traumatic, but that kind of thing seeps into your bones.
Yeah.
And you grow up with it.
Yeah. It's really true. Yeah. That's
why
and I know it's crazy. I know, I really do think I'm going to get in an elevator. It's going to stop.
Sure.
No one will be aware of it.
Yes. So how many times have you seen
I'm going to panic.
The horror movie, The Lift?
I'm going to poop.
You're going to poop on yourself.
I'm going to poop on myself. And then years later, they'll open up the shaft and find a skeleton.
Yeah.
With a fossilized turd.
Sure.
And it will be me.
It'll be you. Have you seen The Lift, the horror movie?
No, please tell me that's not what happened.
Oh, it's the worst movie you ever saw, but it's about a possessed elevator. It's like a demonic elevator. And we watched it when I was in junior high, and there's a scene where the door, there's one where just a blind guy's coming. Of course, there's going to be no car. Goes down, dies. And then later, a supervisor of the building, after hours, is working with his sideman, Keith, and he's like, the door's open, and he looks in, and he goes, I know this line because we paused it so much, but he looks down, there's a dead man at the bottom, with this cane, poor dead blind man. And the guy goes, Keith, there's a man in the shaft. And that's his delivery. Keith, there's a man in the shaft. And the door closes on his head, but it closes and he goes, ah! And he's like, they stop it right there. And he's like, eh. And he can't get out. And then the elevator slowly comes and just shears his head off. But we watched it slowly in slow mo because it's such a cheap movie. Yeah. He's like, no, screaming. And when it gets to his head becomes basically a basketball with a face drawn on it. It's the worst prosthetic head that gets sheared off. It goes from, it'd be like if it's help, and it's my head, and then all of a sudden it's like an inflatable sex doll. Bursh, that just pops so bad.
Inflatable sex dolls that were always in a constant state of surprise.
Yeah, they're all, yeah.
No, oddly, great horror movie. And another one of my phobias, frogs.
Oh yeah. Really? You don't like frogs?
No, when I was 4.
Okay.
My was upstairs. I heard my dad come home with his friend Skippy. I was in my underwear. I went downstairs. My friend Skippy had a little toad. He slipped it down the back of my underwear.
Oh, fuck.
I flipped out.
Yep.
And ever since then, don't like frogs.
Yeah. Well, they're slimy. They're weird.
They're it's completely I don't mind. It's utterly random.
Mm-hmm.
I have no issue whatsoever with spiders.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a tarantula on me.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't, whatever. Like,
Sure.
Honey, there's a spider. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all the legs.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's just like we were in Hawaii. I was in Hawaii with my kids in March, and we're in this patio of this burger place in Kihei, and I look out onto the walkway, and there's a fucking frog down in the walkway it's the size of a football.
Yeah, it's like a cane toad.
Yeah, and I literally could have just like I could have just vomited.
Yeah, well, it's a little fat
ball of
scary
snot
man,
with eyeballs.
little fat scary man that has surprisingly muscular thighs. Like it's going to jump at you suddenly.
Yeah,
like suddenly.
And we'll reach you.
Yes, we'll reach you. That's like an old. I remember that was. That's like an old like style in like old kung fu movies, like frog jump, where he like goes back on his thighs, whoop, and he jumps at you so fast he like knocks you through a wall. That was in Kung Fu Hustle.
That's right.
Yeah, remember that?
Yes,
where he's like, ribbit, and the back of his thighs or his pants split, and his back gets big, and he's like, and he goes so fast. Yes. I love that movie so much.
Yeah. I've never done cocaine. I've never done anything.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in I was raised in a very exuberantly experimental family when it came to consciousness altering. A lot of people metabolizing alcohol in various degrees and other things. And I was the fifth child of it, and I grew up in a world of it. Like I did not know adults that weren't addicted to something.
That's how the world was.
Yeah.
Up through the
And I just
80s.
a weird button clicked like, well, I'm just not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And I was totally into Famous Monsters and all of those things. And that's what I did. So it just became a weird.
I asked Henry Rollins once, how'd you guys avoid in DC, this whole straight edge? How'd you avoid? He said, man, we just watched you.
Yeah, no, that's it. But I will say doing stand-up comedy in Boston in the 80s, I have seen more cocaine done than the Eagles roadie.
That would be a fair amount.
Yeah, it was so like there's very little about it. There's very little about it. I have not seen or done.
Well, needless to say, it's a terrible substance and impossible to use in moderation or
there's no casual users.
No, I mean marijuana to its credit is still a fairly benign substance, even as powerful as these new strains are.
Yeah.
You can't overdose on it. Nobody ever stuck up a liquor store because they needed money to buy marijuana.
Right.
They might, hey, you got to give up those brownies, You got to give up the Haagen-Dazs, man.
Yeah. What are you eating? You done with them potatoes?
Yeah. So the Clash wrote the song about me. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know anything about it actually till I got out. And I just thought it was a great show of solidarity and didn't think much else.
Well, they were very,
they're a conscious band.
Yeah, they were the spiritual progeny of the MC5.
Yeah, they picked up the torch. Yeah,
yeah.
And I didn't think much of it, and I continued to watch. Once I'd been to prison, I started clocking it. Prison became a serious issue for me. And,
sure. How long are you a guest of the state, as they say?
Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
The judge gave me 4. No, I was in the federal system.
Oh, in Kentucky. Okay.
Yeah, at Lexington.
Right.
He gave
on your LXKY. It's on the lower right hand corner of your photo.
It's he gave me a 4-year regular adult prison sentence with a 3-year special parole term on top of it consecutively, which meant the special parole, if you did 2 years, 11 months, and 29 days and got violated, you'd go back and start the 3 years over again.
Oh.
So you didn't get credit for your street time. It was really a nasty sentence. But I got through it and I didn't get violated.
By violated, you mean not what people think of as violated. It's like you don't get punished for being raped in prison. You're talking about if you violate the parole.
Yeah, if I break the terms of the agreement, the parole agreement.
Right, right.
If I didn't get rearrested, I didn't get charged with a new crime. I didn't get administrative violation.
Yeah.
No, I had no trouble with homosexual predators in prison. Not once ever. Yeah. My experience was there are gay people in prison. Some of them function in the prison society, and they can. What I observed was sometimes they would meet the needs of men who wanted to have sex with men. It was about on the same proportions as it is out here.
Well, they can't all be priests.
That's true. and I'm a mainline regular.
Sure.
And I don't transmit that, and I'm not looking for it.
Yeah.
And I'm into women, and that's just how,
And you're kind of famous.
No, I wasn't very famous there. I was,
I
was 00180190, just like everybody else.
Okay.
And a couple guys that were music fans knew that I was in the MC5, but what I achieved a degree of recognition because I played music.
Right.
And I had a band in there, and it was a good band a couple times.
And you met a very,
and I met a tremendous jazz artist, named Red Rodney.
Red Rodney, who was played with Charlie.
Red replaced Miles Davis in the Charlie Parker Quintet.
Yeah. So let's just settle on that for a minute. You're in the Charlie Parker Quintet. Miles Davis is playing. When Miles leaves, this is the guy they chose to fill Miles' shoes.
Yes.
So he's good.
He's crazy good.
Yeah.
He plays on the Dizzy Gillespie level of accomplishment.
Right.
Trumpeters don't play with that degree of facility today. You don't hear guys playing the way Red played. He had, his playing was so vivid that I didn't hear modes or chords or notes. I smelled fried chicken.
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, it was, I heard Louis Armstrong and New Orleans street scenes when he'd play.
Right. And he was also for Narcotics, or?
Yeah. He was an archetype dope fiend jazz musician. He had been there 3 other times in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and
smoking jazz cigarettes.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I clocked prisons for 30 years after I was released, and saw prison populations going up. And after a while, it started to grind my balls.
Right.
I kept waiting.
Because, like everything else,
there's money in it.
Fucking country, it became a business.
There's money in it.
And that is
not only money, political power.
That there's this false belief that, and I, by the way, I have 2 brothers that are prison guards. Like, I get it. I know lots of good prison guards. Yeah.
And I know a number of them that shouldn't be in that line of work.
Yeah. There's some people that want a job, and there's some people that want authority.
Yeah.
And I question the motivations of the latter.
Well, in Japan, you have to train for 4 years to be a prison guard. They take it seriously because people's lives are in your hands.
Here, can you crush that melon?
And the future of society is in your hands because you're entrusted with helping a person change for the better.
Yeah.
And if you're not helping them change for the better, they will most certainly change for the worse.
Not everybody is in prison because they are evil incarnate. And locking people up is done in this country for profit.
Yeah, it's for profit and political gain.
Yeah.
For scoring political points.
Yeah. And so you and Red are in prison together, playing music in the chapel every Sunday. And when
on the yard.
On the yard?
Yeah, we did a weekly concert we had 2 yards at Lexington, a small yard and a big yard. And we would do a concert on the small yard, and then for special events we'd go out to the big yard. And it was good. I mean, we we had a couple good drummers, and my co-defendant was the bass player that I worked with, and he could really play. So, I mean,
but it must have taken a while to get instruments. I mean, literally, and it must have, how hard was it for you to get a guitar in prison?
It wasn't difficult.
Oh, okay.
See, I caught the tail end
Please tell me it was smuggled in a guitar-shaped case.
I caught the tail.
Cake. Oh, fuck. I ruined the joke. Ah, shit. I'm going to say it again, but I'm not going to edit this. I'm going to leave my own. Please tell me it was smuggled in a guitar-shaped cake.
Yes.
Fuck me.
Yeah. You should have let it go by.
I should have let it go.
Yeah, you should have let that one go by.
I'll leave it. It's honest.
Okay. When I went to prisons were still focused on rehabilitation. The mission was to help people change for the better. While I was down, word came from Washington that the era of rehabilitation is coming to an end. We are moving to a accountability footing. Where what they meant is warehousing. We're going to start locking people up.
Yeah. I love those bloodless accountability footing. Yeah. My favorite one is, and this came from, I believe this came from Paul Ryan, who's, the banal face of evil. When he talked about kicking people off welfare, freeing them from dependence.
Yeah.
You know, like when you toss someone out of their wheelchair, now they're free to crawl around and start a business.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freedom from dependence.
At a certain point, to combat my own nihilism.
Yeah.
My own meaninglessness.
Yeah. Whenever someone sells you freedom, anal dilation is a part of the deal. If Kung Fu Hustle doesn't change how every movie is ever made, then it just goes.
Well,
it's just cyclical.
It's just like everything you could possibly want in an action movie. You know,
it's
like,
unbelievable.
It's so fucking good.
It's so unbelievable.
And it's one of those. I feel like every time I recommend something to my parents, there's something happens right off the bat that makes them turn it off. With Black Mirror, it was that the guy has to fuck a pig.
Yeah.
And they're just like, we can't watch any more of these. I'm like, why did they start with this one?
That one hurt. That was a hard one.
Brutal.
That was a hard one.
It's brutal. And there's so many other ones that are just way less disturbing or even uplifting. San Junipero, you know. With Kung Fu Hustle, it starts with a guy, his leg gets chopped in half and thrown axe. My parents are like, no, can't watch this.
Yeah, we're out.
It's just like, why did you start with the There's so much magicalness. There's so many things I know my parents would have loved. You know, the callback, what are you prepared to do? When he does that Untouchables line.
Yeah.
My dad would have been like, oh my God.
I thought it was great the way that woman smoked.
Oh God. And her whole body would just be like, that scream that would just tear the clothes off your body.
Yeah.
I could do a whole podcast just talking about that movie.
That's one of those like in a box of like, I don't know how they did this.
No, it's one of those movies that I'm like,
I don't know how it was written.
How did you make something so up my alley, like Cabin in the Woods? When it found out what the twist Cabin in the Woods is, I'm like, I want to watch this movie for 10 straight hours.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to see all the monsters. No, open all the boxes, and they do. But like, you know,
I laughed so hard when the unicorn stabbed the guy.
Oh Jesus! That's a fearsome animal that will kill you.
I laughed so.
I have this. I put a bunch of jokes basically on the radio, on like internet radio with this company, a bunch of stuff I just had laying around, or I did some clean versions of old stuff. And I dug out this old bit about how I'm sure the first bear or hippo attacks were because they were adorable. Like someone saw a bear scratching his back against a tree. Look at him. I'm going to hug him. Help! and like, you know, hippos will bite you in half.
Yeah,
and leave the body. They're
beasts.
vicious.
Yeah, hippos.
But look at a hippo. You're like, look at his nose.
Yeah.
I want to hug him.
Well, I always expect when I see a hippo, I expect to see him in a pith helmet and a safari jacket riding a hot air balloon.
With his wife who's wearing a tutu.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Where's the tutu?
Have you seen the meme? And there's 3 scenes. It's an African man walking, and then a hippo comes out of the woods, and then he's running, and the hippo's running after him, and he like runs, so he gets away from the hippo. But someone wrote, "Excuse me, sir. Sir, can I tell you about my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Sir, please." And it's the same effect.
Oh yeah,
as an angry hippo.
And I like that the hippo is just, but it's like a stray dog. Like, oh no. Yeah.
Oh, did it see me? It did.
Yeah, and it's going to kill me. I saw the weirdest thing this morning. I was getting ready to. I was going to drive my daughter to school. Guy walking down the street with his dog, a golden retriever, and on the other side of the street, 30 feet away, just staring at him, a coyote.
Fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, just on the other side of the street.
Yep.
7:00 in the morning. Later, actually.
Yeah.
And you just go like, oh, that's a domesticated animal. That's a wild animal.
Yes. Was I talking to you about this?
No.
Yeah, about how the different, because a lot of guys, well, I've heard a couple instances of like a guy had 2 dogs and the coyotes killed his dog, but his other dog was like, you know, a pit bull. and a coyote's in his yard, and you're like, get him, and then 5 coyotes come out and kill him.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because they're like raptors. It's like,
Yes.
you cannot put a domesticated animal against an animal that has had to fight its entire life. It's kind of like how, the strength of a pit bull's jaws, a wolf's bite is something like 20 times stronger than a pit bull's.
Oh, is it?
It's something insanely, you're like, wait, what? You know, because to me, like, look at a pit bull, its head is a muscle.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just, a wolf's like that, but lithe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's
like
not
a raptor.
bulky.
Yeah, it's like a raptor.
It's not bulky, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a giant Bruce Lee. Like a Bruce Lee was like my height. He would kick you through a stone wall.
I have pet a wolf.
Oh, yeah.
A guy had a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clearly like you walk in like, that's not a dog. Like there's just this weird, it kind of looks like a husky, but like, no, that's a wolf. And, and it would look at you.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's absolute calm where it's just like, you're no threat.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to attack you, but I'm not worried.
Yeah. But it was also just like, he goes, it's okay. You can pet him. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I like you do this thing where you put
you put your knuckles by their snout so they can smell you.
Yeah. And I did that and it was like, don't bother. Just pet me.
I know.
Yeah.
I know you're harmless.
Yeah. But it was also
so
like,
funny.
like in a split second, it was like petting a machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
wow.
it's just like,
yeah.
At any minute, you can just go,
yeah.
I wish you were dead.
Yeah. Done. Done.
You're done.
You know, it's like a roly-poly bear, the big gut, faster than anyone. Just smack you 5 times and you're dead. You know, like, so like I was at there's a guy who had a house party in Denver and I didn't know this.
A bear.
But he has one of those dogs that they used in Game of Thrones. Like, they're like wolf
the dogs that look like dire wolves. Yeah.
Yeah. They are dire wolves. They're the dire wolves. They make them bigger on the show, but they're still pretty giant animals and they're just beautiful and silver. And I was at this Halloween party, dressed as Indiana Jones, on mushrooms, and had several beers.
No, wait a minute.
And I basically
were you dressed as Indiana Jones and you were on mushrooms, or were you dressed as Indiana Jones on mushrooms?
I don't know what Indiana Jones on mushrooms would be. You know, he'd probably just be laughing a lot.
He's wearing his shoe and his hat is on his foot.
Sure. Yeah. He looks like he's possessed by Mola Ram, but he's not.
Yeah, he's
shirtless.
He's married to his.
No, it was Halloween. I just did a show in Denver with a bunch of other comics. We're at this raucous house party. And so I was just like, I gotta be alone for a second. And he put me in this room and by myself, and I'm hearing voices that aren't there. It comes in, just walks in the room. And I was like, shit. And it was that moment of fuck, because either it's real or I've gone crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if
I've lost my mind or I'm about to die.
If this is real, this is worse.
Yeah, and then he ran in and, you know, played with like hey buddy, and I was like, oh, okay, you know. But
those animals
funny.
are crazy. Yeah, my sister had a dog. My sister used to only get a dog that was a weapon.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and she would always have Doberman. She had a Doberman that was the size of a buck, like a male deer, not a dollar. And it was sweet as hell.
Right.
But I would be sitting in the chair and it would come in and walk up to me and then put its head in my lap.
Sure.
But it was like,
stop it, I can't move.
Yeah. It's just sort of like, you know, you're just sitting on it's like you're sitting on a, you know, like an old Stephen Wright joke. You're just sitting on a Ferris wheel. Charles Manson gets in with you.
How long is this ride? 20 minutes.
Yeah. That's the old Stephen Wright joke. I was on a ski lift and the guy said, it was first time in skiing in 10 years. I go, why would you take such a long time off? I was in jail. Oh, what'd you do? I pushed a stranger off a Ferris wheel. That's an old Stephen Wright joke.
I forgot about
I've done the very abbreviated version.
Yeah. No, as you're saying it, I'm like, oh, wow, I haven't heard that one in a while.
He has a lot more Baroque detail in it. Yeah.
I always joke with, like my wife and I go back and forth on getting a dog, but I'm on the road a lot and she travels a lot. So just, you know, we'd be just lose our ass with like, you know, boarding house fees. But, I always, we would, I joke about, you ever seen an Argentino, one of those dogs? It's like a taller pit bull. They're illegal in several countries. Like I think they're illegal in Norway. Because like gangsters always have them. They're beautiful, but beautiful, you know, like a raging waterfall or something. Right. You're like, oh, this would tear your head right off.
Yeah.
And so I'm always like, I'll show her. I'm like, what do you think? And she's like, shut up, because she wants a small dog. And I don't want one of those dogs.
Have you seen werewolf cats?
What?
when I got to Lexington, the count was around 600 men. When I left, it was at 1,200. It doubled. And it continued to, prison populations in America continued to go up for the next 30 years, sevenfold. So when I went to prison in 1975, there were 350,000 people in America in prison, 300,000 in state prisons, 50,000 in the federal system. Today, there's 2.3 million of our fellows under lock and key. Hundreds of thousands in the federal system and the rest in state prisons. And at a certain point, I kept thinking some politician of good conscience is going to step up and say, hey, something's going wrong here. You know, these populations are going up and up and up and up. And prison building became the second biggest industry in California. And I said, what's going on? What's going on?
Gee, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And all through the 90s, prison construction was the second biggest industry in
Jesus
California.
Christ.
And they were absolutely brilliant.
And then you have political influence to create stricter laws to continue a supply of prisoners.
Well, here in California, for example, the part of the focus goes on the guards union.
Yes.
Prison guards
But you
union,
cannot get elected governor of California without kowtowing to the prison guards union.
They were a little beer and pizza municipal union for a long time, up through the 70s, when prisoners' rights became an issue in the papers. The Soledad brothers and political prisoners became an issue, and people started paying attention to what was going on in America's prisons. And a brilliant man came in and took over the union, a guy named Don Novi. And Don understood Saul Alinsky really well.
Wow.
And he started to raise the dues for guards union membership. He built a war chest. He started to found crime victim groups, which he would parade out in front of the TV cameras to tell their tale of some horrible crime that the family had suffered. Kid gets killed,
legitimate,
terrible things that happen in the world, and generate hysteria amongst the population. Polyclass, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then with that same war chest, he'd go to the legislature and ask for tougher laws. And if you didn't back his play, he would not underwrite the financing of your next campaign.
That's right, yeah.
So it was a brilliant strategic move, and it worked like a charm. He got gang enhancements added to LA County prosecutions, where if a kid was pulled over by the cops, say he had a tattoo, they would track his tattoo, track his name, and put his name on a list. Say a year later, the kid steals a car. Boys do this kind of stuff. It's been happening from the beginning of time.
Since cars.
Or he gets caught stealing stuff from a store, or just minor. Comes back, they charge him with that. But since they have his name on this
gang
list,
enhancement.
it's a gang enhancement. So that means he'll get 10 years on top of whatever he got for the offense that he was convicted of. Bingo. Prisons are being built left. And then they went to the legislature, and California was in a surplus. We had a economic surplus, and they didn't have to go to the legislature, which means they didn't have to go to the people to fund the prison building. They did it through bonds.
Right.
So nobody had to
and
pay
no
for
politician wants to be against locking people up.
That's right. And they sold all these communities.
There's nothing in that.
All over the Central Valley.
And you hear it now. And it's just the soft on crime. That's the first. That's what you are. You're soft on crime.
Right. Yeah. And all this stuff was snowballing, and it really climaxed with a perfect storm of hyper incarceration in America. And certainly right here in California, we were the league leaders.
Right.
We had, at one point, we had 190,000 people in prison in the state of California. In the 1970s, we had the smallest prison population per capita in the world. We had the most successful rehabilitation programs in the world, and an average for murder carried a 12-year. You would probably, if you worked hard to prove that you were changing, that you took a responsibility for your offense, you could get a shot at redemption at 12 years. Today, we lock people up for 20, 25, 30, 40 years for nonviolent drug offenses. I mean, so So at some point, the activist in me said, enough. and to militantly oppose my own nihilism, I have to take ethical action. Cause I can give up pretty easy.
Sure. It's tempting.
My enemy is my own apathy and my own cynicism.
Yeah, it's tempting. Yeah.
My enemy isn't the Republicans or the capitalists.
Sure.
It's Wayne Kramer.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah. And the more involved you get, and it fights the natural proclivity to believe cartoons.
So
good and evil.
Yeah. Right. Binary.
Yeah.
Everything's binary. Yeah. It's either this or it's that.
Yeah.
And it's never either this or it's that.
I find it hard to find a news source.
So what could I do? Well, I'm a musician. Well, I was a musician inside. I'm a musician outside. I know prisons are full of musicians. Maybe I could be a bridge between these two communities. I always appreciated it when people came in from the street and put on a show at Lexington when I was serving time there. We all thought, whoever they were. I mean, if it was Stand Up America, we loved it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Bobby Vinton.
They were terrible, but we loved them.
Yeah.
It breaks up the horrific monotony of prison life.
Yeah.
And
Johnny Cash.
You name it.
Yeah.
So Charles Colson came and spoke at our prison. We all thought he was hilarious.
Charles Colson, for those of you, he was one of Nixon's cronies, and went to.
He came as an evangelical.
Yeah, he went to prison.
To sell us on Jesus.
Yeah, went to prison. Went to prison for Richard Nixon, and came out a preacher,
a prison evangelist.
Yeah.
And actually has done a lot of good work. I don't mean to dog him too bad. But
yeah. Maybe the Rabbi Michael Cohen will do that in 10 years.
Maybe. So. I took a bunch of musicians with me
Father Manafort
into the infamous Sing Sing maximum security facility in New York, and one of them was Billy Bragg. And Billy Bragg, we were getting ready to go play, and he gets his guitar out, and it says Jail Guitar Doors on his guitar. I said, "What's up with that, Bill?" He said, "Oh, it's a Clash B-side. You ever heard it?" I said, "Bill, the song is about me." "What you mean?" I said, "What are the lyrics?" "Right. Let me tell you about wine. It deals with cocaine." "Oh, bloody fucking hell. It is. I forgot. It is."
Wow.
And I adore Billy Bragg.
Yes.
He's a lovely man.
My friend April Richardson should be here. She actually has BB tattooed on her arm.
I don't blame her.
Yeah.
I have it tattooed on my heart.
Yeah.
And so he started telling me about this initiative that he launched in England. He wanted to honor Joe Strummer's life's work. The Clash inspired him to combine his activism with his love of music. And a guy had written him saying he was trying to, a prison worker had written him, who was trying to use music as a tool for rehabilitation. They had no guitars. Could Billy help him find some guitars? Billy said, "This is perfect. This is just what I'm looking for. I'll name it after that Clash B-side, Jail Guitar Doors.
Right.
And I'll ask my rock star friends to give me some money. We'll buy some guitars and we'll send them into prisons." So I said, "This is a brilliant idea. And this fits snugly with my desire to try to do something to mitigate the damage being done in this country."
Yeah. And be of service.
Yes. And so on that day, it was almost 10 years ago now, he and my wife, Margaret Kramer, and I launched Jail Guitar Doors USA. Today, our guitars, our instruments are in over 120 American correctional facilities across the country. We run songwriting workshop programs on 10 California prison yards in the California Youth Authority, both the men's and women's yards, in county jails, LA County Jail, in the Cook County Jail in Chicago, at Rikers Island in New York. Across the country, we operate these programs using local musicians. So over the 10 years we've been doing this work, we've been able to perfect a curriculum that will allow people to deal with complex, uncomfortable feelings in a positive way for the first time. Everybody has a story. To get them to tell their story in a positive way is transformative.
And to give them a direction.
A context, a place that they can come, a safe space where we can talk about complex, painful issues. I haven't met a prisoner yet that has not suffered childhood trauma. We can deal with that in writing a song. We can deal with family relationships. We can deal with betrayal. We can deal with making amends. We can deal with forgiveness through our curriculum. Every week, writing a new song. Let's get into this. Let's talk about this. And it's transformative because it allows people to, for the first time, see themselves as more than just a crime, and to be heard, to be listened to by their fellows, by us, by whoever's in the room, to see that they can contribute something of beauty to the world, that they're not just takers. They're not just a bed space or a number, that they can add something to the world. They start to see themselves as more than just a crime, that, I'm an artist. I wrote that song. I did that. I made something out of nothing here. It's the beginning of the hard work of positive change. It's not easy, but most people don't like being in prison.
Yeah.
Most people would really rather be at home. And if you give them the tools and the incentive, they'll do the work. The guitars that we provide for facilities, they're not gifts. The guitars represent the challenge for the people that receive those guitars. Yeah. And there's a message in those guitars. The people that donate the money to jailguitardoors.org to buy those guitars are sending a message, and the message is they believe in them. And so if they accept the guitars, they've accepted that challenge to step up and do the hard work of positive change.
As you said, you're identified as a number,
a crime.
And to be able to see yourself as a human being.
Yep.
It's
everything.
Yeah.
Because prison is designed to strip you of your humanity. And, everyone in prison, just like everyone out here, is a human being.
Right.
And anything we do begins with our humanity. If I've got a Aryan Brotherhood on one side of the room and I've got a homie on the other side, and today we're going to write a song about kids. They're going to write about their kids, and you know what? They're going to write the same thing because we all care the same thing for our kids. And I've had guys tell me, man, Wayne, that guy, I never liked that guy. I didn't like him, man. But man, we worked on that song and, he's all right. He's okay.
Charity, if you to learn more about it, jailguitardoors.org.
Correct.
And the book is The Hard Stuff.
Yeah.
Out in bookstores now or on Amazon.com.
Yeah. October 5th, you can come to the Ford Amphitheater. We have our annual Jail Guitar Doors fundraiser featuring MC50 this year. It's our LA show, and you can help us that way too.
Exactly. At the Ford Amphitheater.
Yeah.
I was there last year. And currently on tour now with MC50.
Yeah. Starting next week. We did a bunch of
WayneKramer.com. If people want to get tour dates, where do people go to get tour dates?
MC50th.com.
The letter M, the letter C, TH,
numeral 5, numeral 0, TH.com.
Yeah. It's tricky when you get, I always felt bad for X. The band, they really fucked themselves when it came down to how to work on the internet.
Yeah, this stuff got tricky all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you describe a movie or a band just now?
It should really be our band. I'm going to. They make. I think they're called.
I'm working
Lycans.
on my musical, Werewolf Cats.
That sounds like an Al Stewart musical. the Werewolf Cats.
He just did this. Just does You're the Cat, but change the Werewolf Cats.
Yeah, they're called Lykoi, Lykoi.
Okay,
and you can get them. And I'm going to show you a picture of one, and you're going to go, "I gotta get a fucking werewolf cat."
Oh wow, yeah, that's something out of a Halloween cartoon.
Yeah.
It's.
It was late December, the sky turned to snow.
Was that Year of the Cat, or was that that was his other weird song?
You're doing
that was Time Passages.
Time Passages.
Oh, my wife hates that song, so I'll put it on.
Buy me a ticket in the fading light.
Oh man. Yeah, they're called Lykoi, Lykoi, and they look like little werewolves.
One has a
tie on.
A tie, another one has a necklace of bells.
And they kill you. And I'm sure they would kill you.
They probably steal baby's breath, but with that one.
Yeah.
That one's done time. How lean he is.
It's so funny that we have an episode of Standing. I'll cut this. We have an episode of the show where it's Meet the Feebles. It's just puppets.
Oh, right, sure.
And there's this one girl puppet named Convoy Kathy, and she's like a girl trucker and just a Muppet with blonde hair. And,
sure.
But she comes through the air conditioning vent, and she just looks down and she goes, "I'm gonna cut your ass." And it's not, "I'm going to cut your ass."
That's great.
It's, "I'm going to cut your ass.
Cut your ass.
I'm going to cut your ass."
Do you have those moments where you like see an actor make a choice in terms of emphasis in a sentence that is so weird you love it? Like famously,
Oh, yes.
Christopher Walken, of course,
Yes,
is the king of that.
randomly doing
But
that.
I love Alec Baldwin in Glengarry Glen Ross, the part that Mamet wrote for him. It's not in the play, obviously, but he's like, the line is, "Have you made your decision for Christ?" You know, like, and you read that and be like, "Have you made your decision for Christ?" But he goes, "Have you made your decision for Christ?"
Yes, I know.
Like he just leans on that so hard. I love that.
Yeah.
As if Christ is in the room, you know.
It's so much of I often wonder, like, I know just enough about acting now,
right,
after 30 years I think I can sneak by without embarrassing myself.
Oh, that's my whole plan.
Yeah. And you do a great job.
Thanks.
Yeah. But I wonder, like, with these guys that are actors.
Yeah.
Like, are you that guy now, or are you also thinking about plums? You got to, what you're going to do after?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's just like, a lot of times the more you try, the worse you'll be. I mean, try hard to learn the lines.
100% of the
know the
time,
lines like the back of your hand, but then once you get into a riff with someone, you're listening, and it's all about obviously all about listening.
Yeah.
And then you just it just becomes this kind of smooth, groovy thing you're both doing together.
Exactly.
It's like playing a song.
Well, it's so funny. Like it's always this tiny little snippet that you get of advice that has the biggest impact.
Right.
On Michael Caine's acting in film.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you ever saw it.
Yeah.
He goes like, if you're rehearsing and someone goes up and says, "Oh, you're rehearsing," then you're doing it wrong.
You're doing too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should just be talking like this, because that's how people talk.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he had, I remember his advice on how to play drunk is kind of get smaller, because your body just like caves in, it relaxes, because it's a depressant. So you kind of, that's just,
that's brilliant.
And it allows that you just make a one physical choice, everything else will kind of fall in line.
Yeah. And don't make a concerted effort to talk normal.
Of course. Well, it's white collar drunk.
Yeah.
Lenny Bruce.
Yeah. About time the house bought a drink.
Oh, Jesus, miss, you just got here. Yeah. Dwyer and I used to do that all the time. You son of a bitch, you.
Son of a bitch, you.
Say that so much.
What is that? What is he has a line.
Manicured nails, great, like hair done, whacked out of his skull.
Whacked out of his skull.
But they don't want to be associated with the drunk. I'm not drunk,
What is? And he has a weird thing where he just says like a weird thing, like I
got this dog at home. Like he's talking about his dog.
Yeah. But then he says a weird word in it. Like I wish he goes, "It's a catamaran."
Right.
Why does he out of nowhere? He just says catamaran. I remember I was with my best friend growing up, and we were hanging out in his bedroom, and his mom was sleeping over, and his mom came in, shit-faced.
Sure.
And this song was on the radio at the time, Old Pin It to a Time, and she comes in, she goes, "I write the songs that make the whole world sing." And then she says, "I write the songs of love and apple things."
I like that lyric
Mom,
better.
Mom, you are hammered.
Hammered. It's that Eddie Murphy bit about his dad. If I have to beg, plead in the symphony. It's like Eddie Murphy's never touched a drop of alcohol. Say what you want about alcoholic parents. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times they go the other way.
Oh yeah, I can attest to that.
The miss, yes, sir, exactly. My wife and I came back. We were in Portland last weekend, and we were riding the escalator down, and like Carriage looked back, and this woman was kind of like a little bit loud, and then she just went, "Hello, how are you today?" And I went, I didn't even turn around because it was that feeling of like, oh. And I have to admit this, I had that feeling of, oh, maybe this person is mentally impaired, you know, and it's just outward about, you know, everything, which I'm okay. I'm not going to engage this person, but it was so loud out of nowhere. And I'm like,
catamaran.
I'm like, oh, is that person? And we got off the escalator and, you know, booked it down that long hallway to where the cars are.
Yeah.
You know, walking fast, walking normal, just get out of the airport. LAX is a hellscape.
Yeah.
But I was like, and I finally, I was like, was that woman, was she mentally? And Kara was like, she was fucking hammered. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They just got shit-faced
people get
on the plane.
Yeah, on the plane. Yeah. Ever see you go on a plane and it's
people
7 in the morning?
So much. Oh, my favorite thing when I get to an airport like really early or I land really early in the morning, I like to go by the bar and look at who's got a drink. And you'll see a guy with a scotch at like 7 a.m.
Yeah, like I get.
What's the rest of your day?
Well, if you're a nervous,
a heheadache?
If you're a nervous flyer and
I have
you
a friend
need
who's
it to
like
get,
that.
but it's a lot of people, and I know people like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the vacation. Yeah. I'm on the plane. Yeah. Let's start drinking.
Yep. Oh God! Anyone that's ever been on a flight to Mexico or Las Vegas knows that hell, where you're just like, you don't have to.
Or been on the train to San Diego and you're on with the people going to Santa Anita first.
Oh yes, for sure.
Glug 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 glug.
Yeah, and it's I get, you know, just from having just a certain amount of miles, you know, I get kicked upstairs more often than I did before. Where I used to be like, oh, I'm in first class, free drinks, I'll have a couple. Now I'm kind of just like, why?
No.
Why?
No.
You know, it's like when I first started booking acting work, you know, I'd work one day. And so that day I'm like, I'm eating whatever I want all day.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a pig. And then you get these roles where you're like, I'm on it for 4 days. I'm having granola.
Yeah.
I'm having oatmeal and then a normal lunch. You know, it's that thing where you can't stay on that because you'll see those guys that don't look that healthy that are just like, you know, because they'll come around with snacks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Homemade ding dongs. I'm going to have 2. Like, please don't. Please don't.
Yeah.
Gary, don't do that.
Sunday bar.
Yeah. Oh, I know. God. That's the thing that gets me where they put out all that, you know, they like crafty, you know, craft services. It's like, for your lunch dessert. Lunch dessert? When is that a thing?
Yeah, breakfast and what's the breakfast dessert?
2 scoops of double butterfat ice cream and fudge.
It's also brutal because you're on camera, you can't eat.
Right.
Like if actors aren't allowed to eat.
Right. Well,
you have to look like a lollipop.
You and me are character actors. We don't have to really. It's like Patton's story about Brian Dennehy. Character actors. You can eat what we want. You know. I love that.
Yeah, which is true.
But it's also like you eat like that all the time. You feel terrible.
Yeah, you just feel. Yeah,
you realize like you have finite energy and your energy is sapped by that. By your body just having to burn all that shit out.
If you've ever eaten too much popcorn.
Yeah, oh God, it's such a weird feeling.
Because you are full, but there's no energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like this stuff is going to be broken down and turned into battery pop. No.
Nope.
It's going to be turned
salt
into
and butter,
fat and waste.
Yeah. I used to, Kyle and I, when we first moved to LA, we'd go to the movies and we'd get a big popcorn and each get a giant Coke. Just a big cup of diabetes. And like, it's like I go to the movies. I get like popcorn, like a smaller one, in a water.
Yeah,
I get a water to offset the salt.
Yeah,
I never get a soda.
No, my eating habits have changed a lot since the spring. And
what happened in the spring?
I just was fat.
Okay. You look like you've lost some weight.
So the podcast is called Advice from a Dipshit.
Correct.
Where do people go to find this podcast?
Literally, if you Google Advice from a Dipshit, mine is the only one you'll find. But you can go to iTunes. You can go to any number of streaming services. It's not on Spotify yet. But we don't have enough followers. We have once our. I think it's a number you get on Patreon or whatever it is that gets you there. We have a couple people on there, and if you want to come and throw us some bucks, great. It will. I basically
it all goes back to
it goes to the podcast
to the show,
and to Amanda, who does all the editing, who listens to all the calls, who does most of the promotion, and who's the great thing about Amanda is she's like a podcasting genius, but she has like 2 clients, me and this lady who fixes people's lives professionally, and she'll have like Kevin Hart on her podcast or like.
He comes over in his robo suit.
Sure, in his golden. She advised him to get the golden suit. But
he's friends with Johnny Sacco. That's his only friend.
of Rock'em Sock'em fame.
Yeah.
And so it's like, she's full in for this, but it's like, I want her efforts to be rewarded more.
Sure,
she's
of
such
course,
a good
of course.
soul,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she's so great.
Yeah.
But it's having guests on has been like the one with Jen Kirkman she had the best advice for anyone I've like heard. It just, she just locked in. It was so good. The one with Open Mike Eagle, the rapper / comedian. We had a musician who called in. He was like thinking about giving it up and stuff. And like, Kyle and I have had this on again, off again thing where he's just gone so much, and he doesn't do this anymore, but he used to come home back to LA and like not hang out with anyone. So be like, dude, I haven't seen you in months. What the fuck is wrong with you? He's like, I just been in a bar by myself. Like, why? I'll come, but that was where his head was at. And he's changed now. He's branched out. He's got a girlfriend that he lives with, but someone called in and was like, I like people, but I like social situations, but I hate people. And I'm like, Kyle, take it. And it was like, and we laughed and laughed. And Kyle was like, maybe you're just an asshole, man. I don't know what to do. So it's so fun. So it's like, I'm excited to have you on.
Oh yeah. I remember doing Loveline, but also thinking like, I can't give bad advice.
But this is not that.
I can't stare this person the wrong way.
This is for entertainment. I always say contact a professional.
Suicide always an option. Suicide always an option.
Yeah, make sure. Don't try to kill yourself with a Prius in the garage. It won't work.
Go to a stranger's house. Yeah. Break into a stranger's house, pee in their milk.
Yeah, this is for fun. This is if it's
called advice from a dipshit.
Exactly. I will draw on all, and I will nakedly say shit I've done. I'll be like, yep, I fucking did this.
People rarely say, I got some great advice from a dipshit.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
It's called advice from a dipshit.
I always joke that like when we restored this, our house that we bought, and, it was all Kara's plan. And when people are giving me compliments, I'm like, I'm a mule.
Yes.
I did the work, but I did not plan anything. She's Han Solo. I'm Chewbacca.
Sure.
No one ever said, hey, Chewie, what's the plan? He put his head through a wall.
Yeah.
Chewie, that's your plan all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. In fact, I was, good Lord.
Is that the train?
I don't know.
It sounds like an old-timey train.
Sounds like they dropped my show. I was thinking how, I do owe so much to my ex-wife for forcing me to become an adult.
Yeah. Same.
And everything I have in my life that's worth a damn.
Yeah. Well, it just gives you so much perspective when you have a partner like that, even if they're not in your life anymore, that you just like, even when we broke up a bunch of times, and the longest time we broke up, I was falling into old habits, but I was aware that they're bad habits. And it was like, where there's a time in my life where I was just like, fuck, did I pass out at that party? Don't even remember. Whatever. Wonder if I bothered that girl that I was incessantly hitting on. I'm just like, fuck off, man.
Did I pass out on the party bus? It is a party.
Someone had a picture and this girl that I had this on again, off again thing showed it to me, and she's like, that is my favorite picture of you because it's perfect. Because it's back when I had a big fucking head of like dumb curly hair, and I was like 40 pounds heavier. And it's a picture of me in the kitchen at a party, and I'm leaning, and my eyes are blank. I'm so hammered. I'm leaning towards someone, and there's a tiny arm that's just pushing me back. A tiny arm. So some girl I'm probably trying to talk to, and she's like, would you fuck off? You know what I mean? But it's like, you look at it.
She's like Fay Ray in your hand.
But Fay Ray with King Kong going, yeah, I should probably go home. You can see it in my face.
Yeah, you're really amazing.
It's not, the picture is funny because I'm not.
Yeah. You're an amazing waitress.
It's just, I can't even see anyone. I'm so drunk. And like this hand is just pushing. And I wish I fucking still had, I wish I had that. I remember seeing it and being like, oh God, even at the time, but I wish I had that. It's so good.
Well, you should be giving people advice.
Yeah.
Advice from a dipshit. Mm-hmm. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, man. This is great.
All right. Well, let me ask you this last question, then we're on the air. And I'm not sure if I'll even include it. Have you ever dealt with guys in the Aryan Brotherhood specifically? Since we're in an era this is being encouraged, that get in touch with songwriting or anything, and they realize, this is just bullshit.
I haven't had that exact specific experience. A lot of guys end up in our programs after years, decades in other prisons, following other tracks. And, our programs generally we're in level 5 prisons in California, which are the maximum security facilities. Right. We're also in many level 3 and level 2 facilities. So once you work your way to a lower security, facility, that behavior has to kind of, fall by the wayside. So, I mean, I know, AB members who are in our classes, but they're already someplace else. They've already come to the conclusion that those were old ideas and probably not the best ideas that they could come up with.
Good.
It's also fair to say that, AB is an extremist group, and many of them will hold on to their ideas, and they are part of some of them are part of the 10% of the prison population we'll never reach. Right. There's a percentage in there that we'll never get through to, that are just knuckleheads, and, they just buy into it. They're so damaged that they can only relate to other humans violently. And so, that's where they're going to stay. And really, they need to be there. We have a right to be protected from them.
Right.
And they need to be protected from themselves. I mean, is prison the best solution we could come up with? I don't think so, but it's what we have right now. I think that, the Europeans are doing a lot better job of working with human beings that have been hurt people, and healing people heal people.
Yeah. No, and it's just, Europe, it's, those countries are older. They've had massive failures.
They're more grown up.
They're grown up. Yeah. People forget we're a young country.
In our adolescence.
We're in our adolescence. People, we used to talk about, like, we've never lost a war. Like that.
Bullshit.
But it's also like, well, there's, a lot of good things come out of losing wars.
Yeah. Yes. A sense of proportion.
Yeah.
A realistic view of how you fit into the world.
Yeah. But there is that, we are still at a point where a president cannot denounce the concept of American exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Which is rooted in the belief that we are God's favorite country.
Yeah.
So
that's a problem. That's a challenge for the people of this country,
Yeah.
There's only one people.
Yeah.
If you're born in Africa, or you're born in the Middle East, or you're born in China, there's only one people on this planet.
And what's funny, having been to China, they actually think they're God's favorite country.
Imagine.
Anyway.
Look, let me blow, man. I gotta get out of here.
Thank you so much for coming by.
I can't thank you enough for the stimulating conversation.
And we didn't even get into shock theater and famous monsters. So maybe we'll
do part 2 sometime.
We'll maybe have you back. Thank you. Wayne Kramer, everybody. Thank you so much.
Sure, man.
No, I went on the 4-3, where like,
sure.
3, yeah. And then over time, it just changes your eating habits. And I eat much better than I used to eat.
Like I find going to like exercise classes has like shrunk my insides.
Yeah.
So I don't even have the capacity.
And you don't get as hungry anymore. And I can't die. I have too much. Too many people depending on me. I can't be fat, lazy, and die.
You're still breeding your ape men. Was I not supposed to share that?
No.
Can you delete this after?
People know. But yeah, then you don't. You just. Especially at the movies, used to be like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a giant Diet Coke and a bale of popcorn.
I have a special and an album coming out. And plug called Finally Live in Portland. That's gonna be like January of next year. But I have a bit about how how I went to the movies and there was a Girl Scout selling cookies, and I was like, you can't sell those in the movie theater because that's the greatest lie we tell ourselves is. I ate a vat of buttered popcorn, drank a huge Coke, and I was in the dark at the movies, so it didn't fucking happen? Like you walk out of there and you're like, what's for dinner? I'm starving. I've had nothing all day. Because in your mind you haven't. It doesn't count as calories.
Yeah, well, and
so
also,
it's like you can't sell me a box of cookies. I'll eat both sheets. I'll just sit there in the dark and I'll just slowly eat the whole box.
As Ed Krasnick would say, using carbs as a pillow to smother my emotions.
That's it.
Yeah. But popcorn especially, I just like,
I love it. My dad like states his joys hilariously and always had since I was a kid. He's just like, popcorn and ice cream. Love them. Oh yeah. I love pop, like not together, but like separately. And he was also like, if I could see a new James Bond movie every day, I'd be happy. I was like, I don't know how that worked, Dad, but but
I would, I'd be happy too.
I would love that too. He was the one that took me to all of them when I was growing up.
But that is true. Like I just had my birthday and it was just like, and it was like my birthday and Barbara's birthday. It's all around the same time. So there was a bunch of parties and it was just like ice cream cake. And I was like looking at it going like, I could eat that whole thing.
Yeah.
I could.
I
could eat that.
I keep calling
whole
back fucking. I keep calling back fucking bits, but I had there's these group called Cool House that makes these ice cream sandwiches.
Oh, I know Cool
You're
House.
aware. They're geniuses.
Yeah.
There's a Cool House truck and I'm walking across the street and I have a bit about how like I really want younger people to like me. It's like a character flaw. And the black ice cream truck driver is like, just goes, man, you want an ice cream sandwich. And I just crossed the street. Goddamn right. And I bought it from him. And that kid stopped me on the street and was like, hey, I'm the guy from the truck. And I was like, holy shit. And I took a picture with him.
It's hilarious.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. And hold me. I would.
Are you my friend? Yeah.
Oh man, I remember once as a kid. I was a fat kid. I was Pugsley Adams. I looked like Pugsley Adams. In fact, I think I was called Pugsley for a while.
Okay.
Again, wiped off the hard drive.
Sure.
But I remember standing in my pantry of my old house, eating a chocolate-covered Bavarian cream-filled donut.
Oh, yeah.
Just
that's the stuff.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
And then another one.
Yeah.
Just
hole's not full.
And
gotta fill the hole.
That's 7,000 calories.
I remember eating a bag. I've only heard of them inside
We're like
Portland.
people at an AA meeting, by the way.
Yeah.
I woke up in a grocery store with my pants off.
Yeah,
I ate 2 donuts.
But like an
when
AA
I
meeting,
was,
you did that. You'll never do it again.
Yeah, I ate 2 donuts when I was
laying
10.
on my stomach reading comic books, eating a bag of JoJo's. JoJo's are seasoned, potato wedges, deep fried like 3 times, dipping them in a cup of ranch, like a little cup of ranch. In my bed, laying on my bed on my stomach, eating it, and I still look back and go, because my thought was like, why would you ever do anything else but this?
Yeah, well,
this is pure joy. I'm reading a comic book and I'm eating this bag of JoJo's. They're all mine. I'm in the ranch. It's salty. It's fatty. When it's one of those things where it's like, you'll still do things like that, but don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that anymore.
Again, since I changed my eating habits, but I did one day I was like super hungry. I was just like, fuck it. And I went to Astro Burger down by Paramount.
Solid choice.
And I just got a turkey burger cheeseburger.
Yeah.
No, I mean, not a crazy.
Their veggie burgers also good.
No fries.
Mm-hmm.
And a water.
Yeah.
But just like I'd been eating basically I just eat fruit, vegetables, and meat. That's all I eat.
Sure.
And just
you ate a bun.
Yeah, but just like I was literally like, oh fuck,
God, yes.
Oh Jesus Christ,
so good.
This is so amazing.
I remember like eating with I used to just get I'll just get a giant salad, but then you pour like ranch dressing on it. It's like 3 cheeseburgers.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like
that's how they get you.
That's how they get you, and you think, and it's like fried chicken on the salad. So it's just as bad as anything.
I go to Mexican. I'll just get a salad that comes in a football helmet of a Frito. That is, it's like you should just have a sheet cake.
Yeah, or a giant cheeseburger.
Or those fucking and we'll get off this and we gotta go. But those drinks at McDonald's,
I've quoted
those drinks at Starbucks. You're drinking a cake.
Yeah, I quoted your bit to my buddy Zach, who I grew up with, and my friend Katrina, who I grew up with. And we were talking about the influx of just, and predicting market trends. That's what it was, that boring. And I said your joke about, they predicted a drinkable sheet cake that it makes you nervous.
Yeah.
So
and people want to drink a sheet cake that makes them nervous.
And I do. I love them. I love those dumb drinks.
Yeah.
And I had an overweight friend who used to start the day with there was the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing us we put coffee in something, it makes it just coffee. So he would go to Baskin Robbins and get their fucking coffee drink that's like 3 scoops of ice cream. Like, Aaron, what are you doing, man? Start the day. Just start the day with a cup of ice cream, like a shake. No, it's my coffee. No, it's not, man.
Yeah, those vanilla frappuccinos. That's just they should have a photo instead of the calories. They should have a photo equivalent.
Yeah,
I remember there's a picture of a bottle of Heineken and a donut, and it was it's the same thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, the kids that get the giant ones.
Yes,
the giant super. Oh Jesus.
Yeah. Yes, God.
But I will say, I remember saying to Canaan back when we lived together, I was like, should all these kids be drinking coffee? I didn't drink coffee when I was their age. And he's like, yeah, how many Cokes did you put down? I'm like, that's a good point.
That is a good point.
I used to drink a lot of Cokes.
Other podcasts reach for the sky. Dana Goldbound.
We barely try.
This has been the Dana Gould Hour, brought to you by the Internet. Music by Andy Paley, with Jake Posner behind the board. Produced by Jeff Fox. Graphic design and web production by Spencer Hunt and Segan Friend. Sound editing and post-production by Jalinda Palmer and Joe Napolitano. Hey, if you like the show, why don't you drop us a line at show@danagould.com. Tom Kenny speaking.
I'm a DJ, I'm a person, I'm a singer, I love to